Cash connects the world and helps our future grow. Whoa. No single force can hold it back. It's built to stand the test. For every trade and every hand, it proves it's still the best. For merchants and for dreamers too, it levels every field. A global tool, it's here to rule, a power that won't yield. And I'm proud to use BCH today, where freedom lights the way. Fast, secure, and built to last, the strongest every day. From the cities to the farmlands, to the mountains capped with snow. Bitcoin Cash connects the world and helps our future grow. Whoa, future grow. It's not just for the wealthy, it's for the ones in need. It's power for the powerless, to help them to succeed. And I'm proud to use BCH today, where freedom lights the way. Fast, secure, and built to last, the strongest every day. From the cities to the farmlands, to the mountains capped with snow. Bitcoin Cash connects the world and helps our future grow. Yes, Bitcoin Cash connects us all and helps our future grow. Whoa, future grow. Whoa, whoa.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
Oh, that's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
You got 2 hours, Ryan? Or are we going to
Yeah,
keep it at times?
yeah, I'm good today. I organized this all perfectly. Quiet, alone.
Okay, we're good.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 138, State of the Revolution 2024, the Christmas episode featuring Ryan Giffin and Kallisti. Today is Saturday, the 21st of December, 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy, same as always. Jet is doing the producing. Quick check on the price. We will discuss this when we get to predictions because we've got some more accountability to do, but just to quickly hit the metrics. This year, BCH is finishing the year at around rank 19 US dollars, $454.42, which is up last year when we did this episode from $231.61. One BTC buys 214.5 BCH, and which is down a little from last year. It was 1 to 188.2. But one ETH buys only 622 megasats, whereas last year it bought 980. So we've improved nearly double against USD, about a third or a little better against ETH, and we're down just slightly against on the BTC ratio. BTC actually had a pretty good year this year in terms of the market dominance. Right, our guests, as always, on the Christmas episode, starting with you, Ryan, a BCH merchant, BCH YouTuber, and Bliss co-host organizer. How you doing, man? What's the latest with you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back. It's my 4th time on the Christmas episode. One year I had my dates a little messed up, but still technically was there. Doing great. Excited to be back and talk about all the things BCH over the last year. It's really fun to come back and reflect. And as you pointed out in your tweet or your X or whatever they call it now, yesterday we got a lot of things right, and I'm actually surprised on how much in the narrative. We'll roast over pricing, but we got a lot right. So that's some good indications we're doing some right things over here.
And besides the 1 year, retrospective on specifically the episode, what else have you been up to? Like, just tell me how was it organizing Bliss? How's BCH been in your businesses? What's the latest there?
First, I'll say for adoption, I've had a lot of like bigger businesses starting to accept. So I got 2 major factories in America that started accepting Bitcoin Cash. One of them is Pasmo America. They make I sell equipment, so it's I talk about my businesses. But they are now accepting, and he called me super happy about how all the things I was buying from him at the beginning of the year. He's like, "Holy cow!" You were right on that. And then also AmeriCooler made a large announcement at FIDA, which is a large conference that we held in Colorado this year. Actually, he was an opening speaker for the conference. And this is a large conference. Like Carl Rove was like one of the keynote speakers. So it was a large, and his major announcement that his factory that's over $100 million business is now accepting crypto for payments. He's not coin agnostic, but he's into the ecosystem. And then even really cool, in April, I'm a part of a buying group. So a lot of businesses like mine use our cumulative buying power to leverage factories. I'm going to have the opportunity to speak to over 100 different dealers about how we've been accepting crypto and how they can too. And we do it every year. We do a workshop on ways we can improve our business. And I have one of the stations in the workshop where everyone's going to come to me talking about how to get more crypto. So a lot of B2B business growing in adoption versus primarily I started focusing a lot of B2C customers. So I think getting it within the corporate world is actually be even a more effective strategy. Having corporations more comfortable with it and transferring that between each other. So that's been a big thing for me. Bliss was an amazing experience. My first time to Europe. I, of course, got to see you guys, which was awesome. My wife, it's her favorite now conference to go to because she gets to go to Europe. So that was a lot of fun, and we've been doing a lot of work weekly to prepare for this year, but also build a longer-term vision, which I'm getting excited about. Everything Bliss can be, and what it can mean for the ecosystem, and how to grow within the crypto world to be an attractive spot to be. So excited as more details get building there. Looking for getting all the speeches right, getting more people that are around the BCH ecosystem there. It's a very development focused conference. Also trying to add some fun this year, which I don't know if we can drop any of the fun that we're looking for yet.
No. Well, I would say it was plenty fun. I wouldn't say it wasn't without fun.
Yeah, it wasn't without fun.
Trying to diversify.
Yeah, so we're trying to even do more fun, less, not less, but on top of all the development. And last year we had a fun time at the escape room. That was the coolest escape room I've ever been to. Jeremy, I won't call you out, but too much.
I was freaking out, man. I was. Well, because for the listeners, what you got to understand is it was this kind of like ghost thing, and we went in and all shit's rattling and everything. I think I was holding up okay, but then there was this one bit where they found like a sort of trapdoor, and you had to crawl through this little crawl space into this little cavern, and I'm standing outside. Everybody else is just straight in, but I was thinking, no, this is where they're gonna bring. If they had an actor that came in like a demon costume or something and came up behind us at that point, everybody would have lost their shit, and I was anticipating that they were going to do that. So I was like hanging out at the door. I was keeping an eye on the door. It was freaky though. It was really freaky. Anyway, that's it.
It'll be that fun and more. This year we're looking to add more fun for everyone to bring out, kind of broaden our tent a little bit. And then YouTube's been fun. And saying, I've gotten an itch. When I first started with BCH over 5 years ago, making BCH content, at that time I had a lot more time to build videos weekly with a higher production. I'm trying to get back to that monthly this year, doing a more high. There's such a cool narrative that I like to capture. I know the podcast here, which captures a lot of it, and you'll do some shorter term like let's say like the Abla video you made, maybe not, but just putting the whole narrative together in a clean way. I felt the creative urge to do that. So that's something I'm excited to get on this year, but been enjoying doing that, and seeing a lot more other people just on the social networks talking about YouTube. It's actually one thing I want to talk about, probably my send-off message today, but what we can get a little bit more of the community and for the watchers today. My goal this year is to try to attract everyone to, if you're tweeting about BCH, what can you do 1% more? Can you make a short? Can you do this? Can you do that? How can we keep on spreading the message? It's been playing around with shorts a little bit lately too, to try to make some easier content getting out there. And as the human attention span is getting shorter, that's something I think that we got to get better at. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more of that shorter TikTok content. We've been doing a little bit of it on the podcast, but I haven't been paying. I don't have TikTok on my phone. I don't know what's going on in that world. I'm trying to preserve my own attention span, to be completely honest. So I'm not totally down the rabbit hole there, but I'm sure we'll be able to find some people who are experts and love that, and then just get them on the BCH payroll. Call up the foundation, get some from the pre-mine, and we'll be good to go. At that point, I'd say.
And then lastly, the business has been good. I was telling Jeremy, like, holy cow, like now I have 4 operating businesses right now, employing over 80 people, looking to acquire another company early Q1 this year. So that's been part of why it's been harder to create as polished content rather than just doing like the shorter form stuff. Hopefully once I can get all that set up and right systems and processes, so when I started doing BCH content, I started this other business that's grown extensively. It's been a blessing and a curse in some ways, but more so a blessing. So it's been good.
So with the B2B stuff, does that result in a lot of regular BCH payments? Like B2B stuff can be more on a slower cycle, right? Where maybe you do a deal once every 6 months, or is it like weekly that you're doing BCH deals on that?
So the factory that's going to start, it depends on the factory for us. So like we just sell less ice cream machines. So that's more like on a monthly or quarterly basis, a couple invoices there. Walk-in coolers is the other big company I was talking about. We buy at least a couple every month, and they're large tickets. They're anywhere from $10,000 to $70,000 invoices. So it's, but we buy a lot of them every month. So it's, I think in terms of TPS is not a lot, but in terms of volume moving on the network, it'll help more with that side. Also, the ice cream machines are $5,000 to $10,000 too. So we can move more value, but maybe less, casual transactions. So it'll help a volume move, but not as much TPS.
Yeah, no, amazing. Embedding BCH into that B2B sphere is going to be absolutely massive. We get a lot of that too with Bliss, obviously, with different, sponsors and things that we're doing there, because that's the kind of thing that once it gets entrenched, people aren't going to switch to another network. If what they're using is working, no need to change a winning team, right? So that network effect growing is just super critical. Super critical. All right, Kallisti, you're next up. So our other guest today, the Selene lead developer and BCH tweet master as well too. How you been doing, man? Give us an update on what you've been up to this year.
So life's been pretty good, especially over the past couple months. I just moved into a new place in September, and that's just been a huge change for my life. So I'm very excited for 2025 coming up and closing out this year on a really positive note. It's just been grinding out Selene, grinding out like life, really. It's really interesting for me. I've never been in a position of like running an operation like Selene like ever in my life. So it's been a lot of learning that I've done this year. It's been a lot of collaborating that I've been doing with you, with other people in BCH. Going to Bliss was phenomenal. Going to the BTC conference in Nashville was phenomenal. I wish I could have made it to Argentina, but that just wasn't in the cards. It's just been a lot of really good grinding out stuff for BCH. Twitter battles, like you were saying too, is we've been making huge shifts on the narrative and like getting people to be a little more open-minded. Even the people in like my local BTC group are a lot more open-minded nowadays. And so it's just like 2024 was just a good year for us.
Definitely making some big strides there. On the Selene front, I just checked now our stats. We've got 85 people in the last 24 hours, 314 in the last week, 831 in the last 30 days, and 1,898 this year, which didn't even start this year. That was starting in June or July. Yeah, June. So that's not too bad. And then we're obviously going to look to massively ramp that up next year. But how you been feeling about the Selene growth there?
Man, seeing those stats has been really cool, and I'm glad that you had that idea. I'm glad that we finally got it in because, yeah, seeing the number go up is always fun, right? And it was funny. I was just kind of reviewing some of what we were talking about last year when we were promising the future, and it's like, yeah, we really can see our adoption efforts, the results of it just firsthand, just by taking a look at those stats. So I think it's really cool, and just the outlook on Selene right now is looking really good. I'm almost happy with most of the deliverables that we've made this year. There's still a couple things that we need to finish up, and there's always those usual software development challenges of, there's stuff that's, just needs more polish or some bugs here and there, but we've just been getting at them, month after month. We've just been able to make a lot of really big improvements, especially between like July and now. I'm a lot happier with the state of the app now. Just not happy enough. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in that regard. So with those couple of issues that just keep popping up, people are giving us feedback. I'm really grateful for our users because everyone is like really communicative with us in our Telegram, even over email. We just get a lot of good feedback. And so our community is actually like pulling a lot of weight and making sure that we're giving our best to them. And I just really appreciate that from everyone as well.
So we're expecting exponential growth in 2025?
I mean, we're setting the stage for it, right? So, I mean, if we do look at the stats, we're coming up on just under 1,000 monthly users already, and that's really great. And I mean, if we look at the Play Store stats also, we can definitely see growth across the entire BCH ecosystem. I released 3 of the most popular BCH wallets on the Play Store. And seeing the number go up there is also really promising. So I don't know, we've got the price increases, we've got the Twitter narratives, we've got you and I getting more followers on there. Like all of the signs are looking good. Exponential, strong word, but it could be. I mean, what's another 2x from here, right?
Yes, yeah, it's true. I mean, one thing that I found kind of interesting is that when last year we said on the show a lot that we were going to do cash tokens. We said that we'll get cash tokens. We didn't end up shipping cash tokens, but maybe. But work has started on it, right? And we're going to be delivering that for sure. 2025. We're not going to rug our users again. We're going to get that done.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be at most in the next 3 months. I started working on it this month with some of the other stuff that's been getting reported as far as like some of the bugs performance stuff that's popping up for some of the more power users. Definitely want to address those. So, I mean, whenever we run into stuff that's like impacting the user experience, I tend to want to address that first over new features. But with what we're working on right now, a lot of things kind of go in parallel. So my main focuses right now, as we speak, are cash tokens, improvements to our network code, and just the UX things that people are running into right now. And those are really like the main focuses at the moment. And then so going forward, we just got a whole lot more on the roadmap, but those are like the 2 most upcoming things.
And talk to me a little bit about scaling, because I think this is a really interesting point where in the BCH community, we can be a bit quick to kind of just say, okay, don't worry, scaling, we're just going to raise the block size. We've got Abla, it's all good, no sweat, right? But it's not really, that's not really true, right? There's a lot of work that we're going to have to do on Selene in terms of UTXO management, in terms of being smart about when we're requesting to fetch the updates on particular addresses, when addresses have gone dormant and can be archived, when you want to do a full scan, like you and I are both using wallets that we use all the time, right? Having thousands and thousands of active addresses and subscribing and unsubscribing correctly, and what if it crashes, or what if you have to install on a new app and then you have to scan everything over again, right? So this is where in the BTC side, scalability is just like not happening, and they just say in the future we'll fix it, and everything's a complete disaster. It's like so difficult that you can't even do it. In the BCH side, it's not that scaling is easy, it's just that it's feasible more, right? But there's still a lot of work that goes into that, and I can see that's something we're going to have to keep putting a lot of focus on as both our user base grows, and then also for individual users as they're using it more and more frequently. It really needs to be able to handle that volume. Any comments on any of that?
Yeah, it is really funny when we're talking about scalability, because a lot of people, unfortunately, are kind of naive in that, and yeah, just increase the block size and that just means we're scaling. But no, it's not just nodes that needs to scale. It's also all of the end user software. It's also all of the like frameworks and libraries and all of that needs to be able to accommodate not just bigger blocks, but bigger localized databases. So like you were saying, if I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of addresses on my wallet, how do we manage those in a way that makes sense from a network perspective? Okay, we've got users who are syncing over like 3G in some countries. And so it's like, well, that could be really slow, even though these updates to download like address states are like actually pretty small. When you're doing thousands of them over 3G, that really actually kind of starts adding up. So we got to be mindful of those kind of things. And it's very funny to me because the very first ticket that we put in our ticket tracker was called Scaling Selene. So that's actually why a lot of the stuff that we have promised as deliverables have gotten delayed, is because, okay, well, if there's these UX issues or these functionality or performance issues that pop up as we scale, as we try to sync bigger wallets, as people are finding like edge cases and different ways to just break things, as is typical in software. Okay, we got to address that. I got to go back and address that. I got to rethink some architectural decisions. And so the last update that we just did, the 11.6 version, there were quite a few improvements there, and this has really been ongoing over the year. We changed like our internal database format and all that, and things should feel speedier and speedier over time as we kind of figure out what kind of decisions and trade-offs we need to make in order to get that really solid user experience. So the most major thing I can point to like right now is if you multitask, like sleep the app, like you don't fully close it and then you reopen it, it's trying to download all of your addresses again, and it won't render the UI until that's the case, and that's an obvious user experience issue. But it's just things like that, right? So on a wallet that only has like 100 to 1,000 addresses, that is usually a very quick process. But on a wallet like mine that's been running Cash Fusion for 2+ years and has 20,000 change addresses in it, it takes a little bit longer. And so that's always been my test case. It's definitely, we've made progress because when we first released Selene, I couldn't even sync that wallet. And as I've been iterating over that, okay, I can get it to sync in 10 minutes. Okay, I can get it to sync in 5 minutes. Okay, now I can get it to sync in under 90 seconds. Oh, now we can get it to sync a little faster now. So definitely, we're talking about exponentials. That's an exponential right there. And so overall, that is just, like I said earlier, just one of my primary focuses. I really want to give the best user experience. That does involve taking these kind of scalability concerns into account. Since we are doing everything locally, we aren't just offloading everything to a server like some of our competitors. It's just a different set of challenges that we have to address. And so that's really been a big focus for us.
Yeah, I just think it's important that we start to put this more into the consciousness of the BCH community, because to date, the scaling and all that will be fine has just been kind of like, okay, that's a bridge we'll cross when we'll get there. And to date, our usage has been low enough that hasn't really been tested, battle tested to such a great degree, but that's going to start happening as our traction ramps up. And so I think people shouldn't be surprised that as things grow, there are going to be growing pains. It's all going to be resolvable, and the teams, the tech, the infrastructure will all improve to meet that, but it is going to happen. And so I think people need to, shouldn't be surprised if in a year or two BCH is going crazy and then people are suddenly like, oh, we're having problems with scaling, and I don't want people coming up saying, what do you mean? I thought scaling was all fixed, It's really not that simple.
Because like on that too, I think it's worth noting, since we are in front of like our primary audience right now, like this is really like just us doing this, right? So managing the infrastructure, managing the distribution, managing the code itself, managing other contributors who come in to work on the project. These are all things that we are doing literally by ourselves. We're building this entire business infrastructure from the ground up. And when I first started, even before I started Selene with you, I was working on the BCH Ninja infrastructure, which was that's just my full node, my Fulcrum instance, and there's other stuff that I wanted to build on top of that. But the goal for me was to have very robust enterprise grade infrastructure. Like I want my uptime to be, years and years. I don't want it to ever go down. I don't want this to feel like a hobby. This is something that I'm investing literally my entire life into. And doing that, having all these different hats on, it's definitely been a learning experience for me personally. Because while I'm a pretty experienced software developer, I've been around the block of the professional world. I've never done all of it myself. And so, hey, I'm proud of myself for having those skills and being able to do that. And I'm proud of you for just like being an awesome partner working on this the whole time. Like this has just been such a good endeavor between the two of us. And yeah, it's just, I think, worth noting when we're literally doing it all by ourselves. And I think that's just insane.
I mean, we'll get a lot of help once the BCH really breaks it on the narrative. The money will start arriving and so forth, and that will help a lot. But until then, obviously, yeah, we got to make it work kind of as best we can. You lift a heavier weight, you get stronger. That's how everything works. All right, let's get cracking on a little bit of news before we look back on the year. We're finishing perfectly timed with the latest PSYOP rolling out in the crypto industry. So BlackRock, the huge, whatever they are, $10 trillion investment fund, released a 3-minute video about Bitcoin that we're going to have a bit of a listen to here. Jet, load it up.
We've all heard about Bitcoin. What exactly is Bitcoin? Let's start at the beginning, around 100,000 years ago. Throughout history, we've used all kinds of objects to help make transactions and store value. From seashells, to shiny metals, to paper notes. That's because the value isn't just in the object itself, it's in how much we agree the object represents. So the object can be many things, even, as it turns out, a string of digital code. The internet changed everything. It connected the world, changing how we communicate, work, shop, and manage finances. It also opened the door to a new kind of currency and asset. Enter Bitcoin, a digital currency not governed by banks or governments, but by its global community of users. And that provided new potential benefits. Bitcoin exchanges happen person to person, anywhere in the world, in near real time and for near zero transaction costs, saving money, time, and opening financial opportunity to those without access to a banking system. Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoins. This hard-coded rule controls supply, purchasing power, and helps avoid the potential misuse of printing more and more currency, which can contribute towards inflation. All transactions take place on a digital ledger called the blockchain. It's a digital platform to move value where everyone can see every transaction. Bitcoin is no longer seen as the radical idea it was 15 years ago. Over 500 million people around the world now use cryptocurrency, with over 50% holding or investing in Bitcoin, making it the most popular cryptocurrency by far. Some use Bitcoin to transfer value across borders and for purchases. Some see Bitcoin as an investment, given its limited supply and uniqueness relative to other financial assets. And for those in certain countries, its value goes far deeper, potentially offering greater financial autonomy by serving as an alternative to local currencies. Bitcoin is an emerging global monetary alternative. Time will tell how far adoption will go. But next time you see a seashell or shiny metal, think about how humans' idea of money has evolved throughout history.
All right, that's it. So I love how, firstly, you've got them busily saying, oh, Bitcoin can lower transaction costs and it can be fast and efficient and help people get access to the banking system. But these are the exact guys who over the last 5 or 10 years have been doing everything they can to FUD Bitcoin and say it was, a scam and it was all going to go away and etc. But the real sting in the tail here was when they were talking about 21 million Bitcoin, the fixed limited supply. They have a line of text that's on the screen, but it's not in the audio, which says there is no guarantee that their fixed supply will remain at 21 million coins. Now, people noticed this and jumped on it and said, okay, here's the start of the PSYOP that BlackRock is going to take over Bitcoin and then add inflation. But of course, all the BTC people have come up with all these different copes, which are all nonsense, and will see that as time goes on. Some of them said, oh, it's just a legal disclaimer. They were forced to do it. And some say, well, if they create a fork, I'm not going to run it because my node will just reject it and we can have the real Bitcoin and we'll just dump BlackRock Bitcoin. And someone said, oh, well, this is just what some people are just saying, this doesn't really change anything. It's just words on their slide. But things have really started boiling the frog, right? Because previously we had just one dev, Peter Todd, a classic saboteur, coming in to say, oh, guys, maybe we should have demurrage. Maybe the idea of inflation isn't so bad. Now Michael Saylor's saying it. Now BlackRock are putting in quote-unquote legal disclaimers about it, right? This is how the narrative gets shifted. So in 5 or 10 years, however long it takes, when B2C becomes the BlackRock fork, BlackRock, who previously had in their legal contracts or whatever, that if Bitcoin had a fork, they would get to decide themselves which side was the real BTC, and then obviously dump on all the node holders who had the illegitimate, in quote, fork that they're all confident they could maintain. It's really just, this is the latest thing. We've gone from peer-to-peer cash to digital gold. We've had the whole scam with Lightning Network. We've had all the other different hoaxes. And this is just the introduction of the fresh one here. And the unwitting BTC people don't even see it coming. Ryan, what do you make of this? Am I inventing a false theory here, or is this what's going to happen?
No, I think it has to happen. BTC has to create inflation because they're not encouraging transactions on the chain. They're de-incentivizing transactions on the chain, looking for someone else to be able to monetize off that. So I don't know when the economics will really play for that. They are definitely preparing for that conversation, and all of these people with the Forever 21s in their Twitter bios are going to have to change that or find a new coin, because if let's just say in contrast, the BCH understood roadmap is that they're going to eventually the idea is to get more transactions on chain to create a smaller fee where a lot of people are using it, and that's what will incentivize security. So the security model is broke in the long term as block rewards diminish. So it's a pretty obvious thing. It's I think it could be a decade to play out, but I think the preparation, the narrative, and how they turn that over and say, well, this is why inflation is good for you now. Maybe they get some more Keynesians over there to explain how, in the end, we're all dead anyways. But use my coin. So I just see it as inevitable, and also just something else super bullish, that if the roadmap that BCH is on. No need to create a fork. You're already in the fork. The real Bitcoin is here, and this is the roadmap for it. And when the massive flood comes that we've predicted and is already starting into BCH and the narrative collapsing, this is the next major step that they're going to unfortunately have to learn. It'll be a very sobering moment for a lot of BTC fans, unfortunately.
Kallisti.
It's a little bit concerning to me to see that on one hand, because if we look at the state of the crypto industry right now, and even if we isolate it just to like the BCH mission and related P2P coins on the same mission, we're not there yet, right? We're not using Bitcoin Cash or Monero or anything else in our day-to-day lives at all. Nobody that I know is doing that. Even in the BCH community, people who actively use BCH, actively develop on BCH, I know for a fact are not using it every single day for every single purchase, which is our goal, right? So it's a little concerning, because if the majority of people think that BTC is Bitcoin, and the majority of people think that their little Raspberry Pi nodes are going to defend themselves against all of the liquid capital and all of the narrative control that entities like, let's just point a finger at BlackRock, but we all know that it's more than just them. I see that as an actual existential threat. Now, I've been calling this for the past couple of years, like the race to 2030, when it comes to BTC versus BCH in particular, because of the halving schedule. So obviously we just had the halving of this year, 2024. And our block reward is what now, 3.25 per Coinbase?
125, yeah.
So then, that's going to be cut in half in 2028. It'll be cut in half again in 2032. That's going to be a very negligible amount of just straight coin, taking the price out of account entirely. Considering that with the Genesis, it was 50 per block, right? 50. I'm mining on our chipnet right now, which is, I guess, is at 25 now. But like, I have an insane amount of chipnet BCH, which makes me really salty that I wasn't mining back then on a CPU. But I'm also optimistic because despite the fact that we're not there yet, we're making progress. And I think really the crux of what's really going to be like a tipping point for us is if we can really start getting that real world adoption. Like we always say, you and I have said on many other podcasts, proof of work is one of the only things that actually like speaks in this world. So when we're using it, when we're putting our money where our mouth is, we're actually using BCH, and I am making the majority of my purchases in BCH, and that's actually accessible to everyone. I think it's a lot easier to kind of negate those kind of false narratives that are coming out of a video like this. And the reason that I say that is because if we look at the HODL community, right, your node is meaningless because even if you're just receiving money, right, if you're never spending it again, then your influence ends there. So when we say vote with your dollar outside of the blockchain context, like I have Coke or Pepsi, which one do I like more? I buy Coca-Cola because I like Coca-Cola better. That's taking money away from Pepsi and giving it to Coke instead. It's the same with crypto. If the demand is for BCH, then that means all these merchants and exchanges and all of the other peers that I interact with will be running BCH nodes, not BlackRock crippled coin nodes, right? That means that there's an actual economic incentive for them to do that. And if we remember, Bitcoin is all about the economic incentive. So all these people who think that their node that just sits there and does nothing maybe receives from an exchange every now and then if the exchange sends your pre-BlackRock coin still, just and if I have the ability to send to merchants and other peers, etc., that are also not taking that BlackRock coin, then you win, right? If not, then you lose. And as Ryan was just saying, I think Keynesian economics is really the predominant school of thought there, whereas Bitcoin, as it's designed, is more based on like the Austrian school of thought. It's just the thing is when everyone thinks about the school of economics, it's always going to be the Keynesian style. That's going to be, oh yeah, let's just print more money. Let's just keep inflating things. And that's going to solve all our problems. And obviously, as we can see by the state of the world, it does not solve any of our problems. It creates more. So that's really where a lot of my concerns come. But as long as you are actually sending and receiving on the network that aligns most with you, and it is important to go in both directions, but as long as you're doing that, then I think we're okay. We just have to really make it easier and more accessible and more realistic for people to be doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a quote here from Kit at Kit Christopher, who did a good job of summarizing the way that the gaslighting about this is going to go. So here's the steps, which is basically the same with everything. Number one, it's impossible. So that's what we were at before. Bitcoin, 21 million forever. It can never be changed. It's this immutable property. It's impossible, okay? Then the second step is, okay, it's possible, but it'll never happen. And that's just kicked into gear. That's all the rationalizing came out with BlackRock saying it's not 21 million. All these people came out to say, well, technically, yes, they could change it. And then if they got enough of the nodes and then the miners and they pumped the price and dumped our coin, then yeah, it's possible that you could change to 21 million, but it won't happen because we have our nodes and we're protected and we got rid of the B caches. So obviously we can defeat BlackRock, come at us, bro, right? So it's impossible. Okay, it's possible, but it'll never happen. And then these are the upcoming steps will be, well, it could happen. So we'll see that, and then it might be necessary for it to happen, and then it's actually a good thing that it happens, and then you're a horrible person if you're against eliminating the supply cap, will be the final state of the narrative, right? So we just got all these steps here, and we'll be able to watch that play out over the next few years as the BTC node runners and or related people follow this path led down it by the propaganda and so forth of the people actually in control. So I think there's kind of an interesting way to finish the year, right? Where we were worried about CBDCs and we were worried about inflation and all that, but maybe that didn't kind of play out so much as the shift onto increasing control of the whole Bitcoin scene instead. Maybe it's coming about via the back door. Just a thought.
This will be the second hijacking of Bitcoin.
Exactly.
The Bitcoin they have right now is good enough. And then this will be the next one they'll have to accept. And yeah, we'll see if, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, however that saying goes. But that's it'll be pretty interesting to watch. But yeah, I people really have this misunderstanding that it is forever. I think it's a few lines of code you'd have to change. So it's not something like overly difficult to do. How it gets recognized by the community. I think they understand. Whoever, Peter Todd, is a prime example of someone that really believes this and has been saying this for quite some time now. So it'd be really interesting to see that it's they're gonna something they have to seriously face. A question we're gonna have to answer as well too is is security for us as it becomes critical, and are the path we want is transactions. As Kallisti was laying out, we need transactions and to reward someone to verify them. So that's we'll see what school of thought wins, and the fight continues.
Yeah, so definitely just something for us all to keep an eye on, and obviously for my audience, you can watch as the BTC guys boil in the hot water, where definitely some of them right now are saying it's never going to happen, our nodes, whatever, but slowly support will slip away from that narrative as it just becomes isolated to a few true believers who never see it coming once the actual hijacking number 2, I love that, the second hijacking takes place, and they've already been through one hijacking and they didn't even notice. Now it went from P2P cash to digital gold, and they're like, we won. No, you lost, you got hijacked. So it's just gonna happen to them again. Quickly as well, I wanted to have a quick chat about MUSD. We've had the launch of Moria Money, and the peg to $1 being a stable coin actually broke this week. There was such volatility down in the price that the peg broke, and it's went down to 92 cents. It's since repegged up to $1 with people minting and so forth. And there are additional measures planned for the actual, this is the alpha version, for the next test or even the production version to fix this. But I'm just wondering if either of you had any thoughts on Moria USD, and I just think it's going to be seen as one of the big innovations of BCH in 2024 when we look back.
I think it's really cool. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of the nuances on how exactly it works. I think I have the basic idea down now, and I think it's brilliant. Also, we can look at the Cauldron Dex stats. It's the #1 token. Like, it's already the #1 token just in the alpha version, already way over Foober. There's like 20,000 USD total value locked right now, something like that. And that's just on the very small community of people who are already trying it out. So I think that's really promising. It's also kind of funny to see the peg restoration, because the reason that it even depegged is because everyone is so bullish on PCH. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a really great tech. I think it's really necessary to exist on our chain. And I'm excited to see the future of it. And I hope that in the future I can stop selling for real USD and just denominate an MUSD instead, because then I don't have to get rid of my stack.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be super good if once this all comes together. And then, even as we've seen, stablecoins have been super popular. So if we can get everybody transferring MUSD to each other, but just using the slick BCH wallets with cash token integration and things denominated in USD, that's going to be a huge win for those users. And they never even really need to know that they will find out eventually, but it doesn't need to be like BCH front and center if they just want to have their quote unquote cash app, but it can still all be decentralized and non-custodial and so forth. Ryan, have you been excited about MUSD?
I think we might have lost him.
No, I think he's still there. Ryan?
I think just stable. I'm here.
Go on.
Yeah, see me?
Yeah, crack on.
I've always kind of been cautious. I've always been kind of bad examples out there. So just trying to find the proper economics. I think we all know that Tether's very problematic. I think we saw the Terra Luna experiment collapse, and I think certainly in the infancy of cryptocurrency, obviously there's strong demand for using some stable resource for it. So again, cautiously optimistic. I think most of what's out there kind of scares me in the stablecoin world. I did think the Terra Luna thing was a fascinating economic experiment. I think you called it super early. You knew it was going to be bad. I was kind of, the burning and the buying and all that. But hopefully there are some lessons done throughout time to create better economic tools. Definitely needs to exist. I know Tether is still, even though it has so many problems, it's massively. I've almost longed for the day for it just to collapse and just restart crypto, get a fresh reset on everything. So I'm very curious when market cap grows on Tether exponentially. I feel like they're printing Tethers to buy Bitcoin for the liquidity and sell it and pump the price and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's a very popular tool, the proper economic one. MUSD, I need to probably learn a bit more about it to say, hey, this is the one, because I've probably been wrong in the past too. Cautiously optimistic and good to see this kind of ecosystem existing in a BCH.
Yeah, I'm definitely more bullish on this than Tether. Tether does need to blow up at some point, but the MUSD, it's all locked on chain. Again, only time will tell if it can correctly repeg, especially once they've made the updated version with the downside protection, but it's certainly popular, I think we can say, at least. So at the very least, it's drawing interest into BCH and ramping out TVL, so that's good. Okay, quick check-in on our 2023 storylines before we get into the ones from 2024. So last year, our big stories were ordinals changed the game at number 1. Number 2 was cash tokens, and number 3 was CBDCs and inflation. And if you go back and listen to that episode number 102, I've got a couple of good timestamps you can check out. At 40 minutes, we talked about BTC defectors coming in from BCH in 2024. At 52 minutes and 35 seconds, we talked about Solana versus Ethereum, which proved out in 2024 there was a lot of movement on that. We've been covering it on the show. And at 1 hour and 29 minutes, we talked about quantum computing, which also recently has just become a huge topic in crypto. So I don't know, Ryan, do you have any thoughts on our track record from last year? We did pretty well, right?
Yeah, I went back and rewatched it and was almost somewhat surprised and tried to bring myself back to that time, how subtle I felt saying that the narrative's collapsing from within. We saw little fractures in it, and then now it's becoming pretty broad out there that hey, BTC is very much compromised, and already some people pushing in other directions. And not saying it's all people have migrated to BCH yet, which was kind of a bigger part of the prediction that it's not quite fulfilled yet. But just this overall narrative that you're hearing. BCHers are pretty smart. BCHers, they may have gotten some things right, like all this, they're continuing and looking for those more notable people to stand on have the courage. There's a lot of smart people that it's very challenging me to watch smart people again, and maybe it makes me reevaluate my own positions, but haven't come to the complete conclusion that BCH was right, and maybe getting back to what's right is is the right thing, rather than saying, oh, there was an issue with BCH, so therefore I'm going to kind of watch the community and make sure it gets better before I'm bold enough to hop back on the train. I think that's where the work we're doing is so critical, to make sure that when they do come back, it is there's high confidence in them, that they don't have the vision yet completely. But we definitely, it's everything that's going on with Roger right now is getting the word out there more and more. It's a bestseller on Amazon continuously, and it's hitting the mainstream. And it almost feels like I was telling you, I think on a private call, that it just feels like in America, it feels like right now that there's been like this grassroots, like somewhat overtaking of establishment. And I feel that, and I felt that for a long time with BCH. The fact that it's seeing it play out in the United States, like Ron Paul's an advisor to Doge, like Ron Paul's actually having like really influential say in cutting government. Like 10 years ago when I was a big Ron Paul fan, like I knew it was on the outside, but I didn't care. I didn't care that people say my vote didn't count. And I feel like at BCH is a similar situation. Oh, you don't really matter. You're the small thing. But when the narrative's right, it's just time. Time is the ultimate teller of all truth, and I can only imagine what the next year is going to look like.
Kallisti, any thoughts looking back on the last year of narrative shifts and being in the trenches every day?
I mean, to me, it's just crazy how close we were with a lot of our predictions for last year, between the narrative shifts, the Sol versus ETH thing. Like we actually got a lot right. So I think that is kind of testament to how much we're actually paying attention and how much influence we are actually having on these things as well. I think that it's just really crazy to see like how quickly everything has moved also. Just last year, we're kind of coming out of a bear market a bit. Just the year prior to that, we were at some of the lowest prices like ever. I forgot if that was one of the slides for today, but we avoided our biennial disaster, right? This year, it seems like it's the BTC guys that are ending up with that disaster this time. I just am like, wow, we're plugged in, we're grinding, and it's working. And I'm glad to finally see the results of the work that we're doing and the community engagement and the development and everything. It's just been good.
Yeah, so let's crack on then with our top 3 stories of 2024. The number one biggest story in crypto this year, I think, without a doubt, this was like I instantly knew this was going to be the number one story. It was Roger Ver and hijacking Bitcoin. So Roger and Steve put out this book in April, and then shortly afterwards, Roger was arrested. So the whole thing, when it initially came out, it made a huge splash. It got so much traction, so many people read it, so much of the crypto industry kind of was like, wait, have I been scammed? Like, I hated the Bcashes and I dismissed them and I thought Roger was just playing the victim or whatever. But after reading this, I realized that he actually had been slandered and the whole thing had been a bit of a psyop and etc. It got a huge amount of traction then. And then it also got like a second round of traction in November, December with Roger's case. He's been in Spain like that whole time. And then after Trump got elected and Ross Ulbricht's pardon was a huge part of the election campaign, Julian Assange also got released. So it's been kind of a good year for these freedom fighters that have been telling the truth the whole time, or, non-violent offenders, offenders, quote unquote, right? This kind of stuff. Then Tucker Carlson had Roger on, and it blew up into this whole huge other thing of his case specifically, but the surrounding traction onto hijacking Bitcoin. What was he saying? Why did this get him in trouble? Exposing all this information that had been covered up. It's very reminiscent of some of those other cases with like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and stuff. And like you said, Ryan, when the time is right, nothing could stop an idea whose time has come. And that seemed to be happening with hijacking Bitcoin. So that has just changed the game completely, because I often think about when we had Joshua Hensley on the show and I asked him about the ordinals thing, and he said, at the end of 2022, things were looking pretty grim. Like, everything was just written off. BCH is dead. Big block is done. See you later, etc., etc. Then in 2023, the ordinals thing just changed the game massively on well, is digital gold really going to work? Or what about JPEGs? What about the innovation in the rest of the space and all that? And then in 2024, it's been the hijacking has become mainstream knowledge. The Overton window has just shifted to that's the assumed knowledge, basically, that you know that BTC has been hijacked and all the related stuff, which the BCH community have been saying literally for nearly a decade, what? Since 2015, for sure, have been saying, guys, pay attention to this. And finally, its time has come to get in the spotlight. And the BTC community, who are still in the hoax, right? They're still hijacked. They just can't stand up to it because they're not just arguing with a few Bitcoin caches anymore. They're arguing with all of crypto, all of anybody who has read this stuff, all the financial world that have started paying attention. It's just been absolutely overwhelming, and it's flipped the script from the hijacking being a conspiracy theory, undercover knowledge type of thing, to just the accepted point of view, and anybody trying to say it's not hijacked is the one having to make the case now. Ryan, what do you think of the whole hijacking Bitcoin saga?
Yeah, well, the biggest takeaway for me is that one, I think the book has like 4.7 stars on Amazon right now, so it's like a very strong showing. Like everyone's had their opportunity to throw stones at it and do that, but it's overall very popular. And I think that even the smearing that people have tried to throw against it, it's nothing of substance. It's I think Adam Back said something to the effect of, I can't wait to see Tone Vays. He's like, it's all terrible. Can't wait to see Tone Vays debunk it. One, what was terrible about it? What was inaccurate in the history that you're pointing to? And then Tone Vays never even did anything. So there's from the I was expecting some kind of decent substantive response as to why something was wrong, or at least you can. I like the saying of you can say maybe this new version of Bitcoin is better, but you cannot admit that it's not hijacked. It's not what it was. And so, and even hearing more of a novice like Tucker Carlson speak about it, he's like, yeah, I thought it was supposed to be payments, right? So him just playing this in his head, it's like, wait, it's you're right, it's not being used as payments. Why is it not being used as payments? Why aren't people talking like that? And now it's hitting the broader, Bitcoin's a household name, and now to re-engineer in everyone's mind, wait, it's not that, it's supposed to be this. Is that actually useful? A store of value, and just trying to think through that whole conversation, and just understand the importance of having a non-sovereign asset with complete all the properties of what cryptocurrency can be. Frictionless payments. That whole video you showed was so inaccurate from the perspective that people can send it cheaply cross-border. That's not true, and they're still trying to ride on the overall original version of Bitcoin and say it's still there, but it's not. So it's been an insane year from that perspective, and we'll see what happens with Roger's case. I think that the more it goes on, unfortunately for Roger, it's a very bad thing. It's probably a very stressful thing, but I think it's a sort of like a martyr position, that it's the longer he's facing tensions and out there and can get his story public, it's better for the overall mission of peer-to-peer electronic cash. And you're right, you're saying it's almost like how I saw like establishment media this year, and then social media. We finally saw that overtaking. And if you look at just the pure markets, BTC dominance is barely above 50% in dominance. And so it is actually going to turn where the rest of the market is against them, and it's going to be much harder to hold on to. And we'll see what kind of crazy events happen. I'm sure they're not going to go down without a fight, but in the end, it's the world needs peer-to-peer electronic cash, and that's just obvious.
Kallisti.
I also think that it's kind of obvious. I mean, that's the whole reason that I got into BCH to begin with. When I eventually stumbled upon Reddit RBTC, when I learned about the eCash fork, I was devastated. I was like, oh no, Bitcoin is dead, because I was seeing all this stuff about BCH ABC. I finally found that subreddit. I finally found Bitcoin Cash Node. I was like, thank God, there is still a chance, because it was clear as day. As soon as I found that subreddit, I started learning about the history of everything, and I'm glad that I had the context of originally learning about Bitcoin in 2011 and just playing with the faucet or whatever and going, wait, something just smells fishy here. So I think that the Hijacking Bitcoin book came out at just the right time. It is really unfortunate that Roger is being legally persecuted for unjust reasons, and hopefully that case is able to be resolved peacefully and fairly. And I just think really the effects of that, the Streisand effect is going to Streisand, right? The more you try to suppress the truth is the more it's going to get free. If enough people are outside of that false narrative, there's enough challenge to it. I mean, we can see the results firsthand. We're right there, like you said, in the trenches fighting that narrative war. So I think we are actually winning hearts and minds. I think this book has a lot to do with it. It was really great to be with Steve Thurmond in Nashville. He was distributing copies of Hijacking Bitcoin to everyone that he could, and with a cash stamp inside most of them too, so that you could try claiming your little $5 of BCH. I think things like that matter. We got to get the information to the right people. And I think if we weren't really pushing that hard on it, I think it would just kind of collapse, like we would lose. And we were talking about the CBDC threat last year and earlier today. It's kind of interesting to me that with, I think, the political climate shifting a bit, it's almost like we aren't even hearing about CBDCs anymore. Like we know that that's still a potential threat, but it's like, okay, well, if we get everybody onto some kind of, I don't know, what USDT is issued over Bitcoin, I guess, what if everyone uses that instead? And, the technology is already there. We don't need a whole new thing. Or, what if they decide to go with UBI or something? I think, what was it? Callan and I were on Fiendish's show a couple days ago talking about the changing in the overall narrative and the zeitgeist. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's almost like nature is healing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But I even just think, even just the word hijacking, now we just say that Bitcoin was hijacked, and everybody's just like, yep. Before that, the BCH community spent years and years and years and years saying BTC is a scam, it's been captured, it's been this, it's that, it's a hoax, etc. Whatever language used, it just didn't all resonate as strongly as just having this one book. And even the fact that, like you guys said, nobody could really debunk it or anything because it's all cited. Roger didn't put in any of his personal beefs or opinions, really. It's literally just the facts laid out from start to finish in one concise way. Steve also, between the two of them, I saw an interview with Steve, was on the Solari Report, which is a great interview very recently, and he was talking about how the first version had some more of that kind of stuff in it, but they went through with the drafts and they just tried to chop out anything that they couldn't specifically cite and note to, and maybe it would be awesome, by the way, if they end up doing a second one or a follow-up or something, which is kind of the director's notes or whatever, where they put in all that stuff back in. That would be awesome. But the fact that they did a version without that just made it so hard for anybody to attack. I remember there was threads by people saying, look at all these lies that Roger has put in his book, and then they screenshot a couple pages, and you read the page, it's like all of that is completely accurate. So I think the fact that true information, the truth speaks louder than anything, given the right circumstances, and it's just absolutely changed everything, and so from here, it wasn't like BCH wasn't the greatest benefactor of all this. There is quite a lot about BCH in the book, and actually the book leaves it quite well at the end there, where it says like BCH fought off eCash, kind of dawn of a new day, we'll see what happens. That was almost kind of a nice little cliffhanger, but it didn't result in a huge surge in traction of people picking up BCH directly. But I think everything's now prepared that in 2025, 2026, the BCH community is going to have such an easier time breaking through as a result of this. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Roger, I think even there was some criticism of Roger with the Tucker interview, just not out there like, hey, saying Bitcoin Cash or things like that. I almost feel like it's the less Roger it seems like is the pillar for Bitcoin Cash, the better it is. Even years ago, I probably thought that, like, if we lost, like, the big voice like Roger, but even with Bitcoin.com, and the more that it just becomes a coin and less of this narrative that that people have stuck in their mind, I think overall, let people draw their own conclusions. It's not going to be, Roger's been the salesman for Bitcoin for a long time, and I think that they need new voices. That this has been a man that's been targeted and has lived his life in a state of hostility for a long time. And so at least if he can just get the story out there and enough people can look at the market themselves and make up their own decisions, is, people have to, and that was going to be kind of my thing too. We are the voice. We are that next cliff where he left off. This conversation is that. So, what we do with it is critical. And, people like Roger and the other, people that are, pushing any coin that's for peer-to-peer electronic cash, but especially within the BCH ecosystem is important. So wish Roger well, thankful for everything he's done to create the crypto economy. And it's not up to Roger, it's up to us. So that would be kind of like my send off to everyone, but I'll save that. But if you're relying on Roger Ver to deliver peer-to-peer electronic cash, you have the wrong idea of what we're trying to create here.
Absolutely. Kallisti or Jet, any thoughts on this?
I really agree with what Roger is saying. I'm sorry, what Ryan is saying there. I think Roger is stepping back out of the spotlight, and the more that we kind of break that narrative that BCH is just Roger coin, I think that's really good for us. So while it does kind of suck that a lot of the Bitcoin.com services have kind of sunsetted and scaled back, and they're not totally focused on BCH as much as they used to be, I do think that that's left a lot of opportunity for the rest of the community to step in and fill that hole. I mean, if we look at, just us again with Celine, we wanted to have the user experience that's as good as, if not better, than the Bitcoin.com wallet, which at the time that we started the project was probably the predominant adoption wallet. So I do really think us filling that hole has been really healthy. I think being able to point at work outside of Roger and be like, hey, look, we're actually doing this. This is actually decentralized. This was never just one guy, even though it was never one guy, but that was the public perception, right? I think that's really important. And I think Roger, I hope he's listening to what we're saying. There's been a lot of times where we've been on podcasts and Twitter spaces and all sorts of other stuff where we've sent the message like, hey, we really appreciate everything that you've done. Just stay out of the spotlight. That's what we need right now. And Roger, if you are listening, thank you so much for the actions that you have taken over the past couple of years, staying quiet, but also staying involved kind of in your own way, really sending the right messages at the right time. I think has been really critical to the overall adoption of peer-to-peer cash coins, even if it's not just BCH, but other ones that are actually aligned with us like Monero or Zcash or whatever. I really think that he's just been making the right moves. I think we've been really making the right moves, and it's just good. We need to keep going in that direction.
Decentrally Focused says, on Polymarket, Roger has a 22% chance of being pardoned by Trump. If that happens, the hijacking story will get another big round of coverage. So yeah, I guess fingers crossed for that for both reasons, really. And I guess maybe that's something. Let's take a stab then on this one on 2025. Or what do you guys think? 2025, Roger gets a pardon. Does Ross actually get pardoned by Trump? What does the first year of a Trump administration look like with regards to filling the promises that have been made? The Bitcoin Strategic Reserve has also been discussed a little bit, sort of related to that BlackRock stuff. What do you think, Ryan? First year of Trump.
Yeah, I'm prepared to get let down, but I'm scared of. I've never been so optimistic and even proud to be an American in my lifetime on kind of what happened this year. So the probability of Roger getting pardoned, it was funny. My the day of the interview, my neighbor was at I'm actually 5 minutes down the road from Mar-a-Lago. I'm right here. He was at Mar-a-Lago, and he said jokingly, he put on Facebook, "I just got a Zin from Tucker Carlson," and he is there and having the conversation. It couldn't be more in front of Trump's face what's going on. And then furthermore, Elon commenting on it, and Elon also having communication with Roger in the past. I think the probability is probably higher than 22% in my own estimation, but I think I don't know if it's probable. I don't know if it's over 50%. I think politicians have a really good ability and to let people down, and they say a lot of things. This is a completely different Trump that I'm hearing now. He had the opportunity to pardon Ross the first time through. He had a lot of opportunity to be. He was not very friendly to crypto at all. He spoke so optimistic of the dollar. It's a completely different person we're hearing now. Do I trust this person or not? I'll take what I can get. It was certainly better than what we've been getting, and it's it's the life raft we have. So I think 2025, I think it's more probable than I don't know. I feel like it's 50-50. I feel like it could go either way because in terms of making pardons, politicians look at political capital. He is in a last 4 years of his term here, so like the re-election concerns are not really there. But in just still controlling the midterms and doing things like that, I feel like the Ross one has like no political capital. Like Ross has been there forever. His mom's, I don't see him swaying. Assange may have political capital that people can say maybe you're not pro-U.S. He leaked things, blah blah blah. The Roger case, it depends on the narrative with the IRS. I don't think it's a very good case for the DOJ to say he's liable for all of that. And when Bitcoin trading volume was like $8 million a day, like how could he even sell that much Bitcoin? And there's other things in the case that are super sketchy. So I'd say 50-50. It's hard to tell right now.
But you think he follows through on Ross? You think Ross is a done deal?
Oh man, I would say that's probable. I would say 60% he made that promise, but God, I don't know if how you guys view politicians. They're a bunch of slippery people. I'm going to say yes on that one, probable, and I'm going to say 50-50 on Roger, and probably 40% on Assange and Snowden. Those kind of political defectives.
Kallisti.
I'm skeptical but optimistic, and kind of like Ryan is saying, politicians are slippery people. Last time I was optimistic about a politician was last year when we were talking about Bryson and legal tender, and we all know what happened there. So I don't know. I was in Nashville when Trump was speaking to Bitcoiners about free Ross on day one and all of that, and it's like I really, on one hand, feel like he's just telling us what we want to hear. On the other hand, at risk of irritating all of my friends and family at home, I do kind of feel like we are looking at a different Trump. I can't really put my finger on it, but something is definitely different about the way that he talks and the way that he's doing stuff. So I don't know. I don't trust politicians at all. I'm not really much of a Trump supporter personally. So it's really hard for me to say. I don't know. I'm skeptical overall, but it would be really cool if it happened. I guess I'll just put it that way. I just don't actually really believe anything that any politician says. I don't think that, like I want to see what happens with free Ross first off. If you actually free Ross on day one, then maybe I'll take anything else that he says seriously. But until that happens, I am 100% skeptical.
Yeah, because he was saying it's to get your vote, and now he's got the vote. He's got what he wanted. So now,
no accountability.
Yeah.
All right, that was our two American takes. Jet, do you have a view on this?
I think it's funny to see all the Canadians panicking about the trade war, and Trump talking about Canada being the 51st state. So, I don't think that's going to happen. If I remember correctly, the U.S. tried to annex Canada at one point, and didn't we burn some government building? Good luck. But I think it definitely does seem like a different Trump. I think I used to watch his the debates and whatnot just for the entertainment of it. But when he went on to Theo Vaughn's podcast, it was and he was talking about his brother's issues with drinking and drugs. That was the first time that I was like, this is a genuine Trump right now. This isn't just some politician face kind of thing. I don't have much hope for any of these unless there is push by others, right? Because he's talked before, I think it was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, where you just kind of have to start trusting people when you're in that position, because you have, a million things to do and 100 people that are speaking to you every day. And you get to a point where you just take their word on it. So even if I think that this is a changed Trump and that this is better than it was last time, I don't think it's all on him. I think it'll be swept away in the system the same way bureaucracy seems to always develop.
Win out. So is Ross going to get freed, or what about Roger?
I think Ross has the most likelihood. Although if Trump and Tucker are buddies, then Maybe there's some hope for Roger. I don't think there's any hope for Julian.
I don't think so either. So I think I would say 75-80% chance Ross gets out. That was such a big part of his campaign, and the blowback would be so massive if he didn't follow through on that. I think good odds for that. Roger, I agree, sub 50%, but maybe 20% chance that he got a presidential pardon, but I don't think he needs it. I think all he needs is for Trump to get in and somehow the bureaucracy to change. And then what do we even do with this anymore? Like, let's just move on to something else, like let's just settle it with a $100 million fine or something like that, like I could just see that being how things change, right?
Especially if he's like talking about tariffs as a way to reduce like income burden, or sorry, not income burden, tax burden. So yeah, if he's looking at Roger's case and he goes, they're trying to do what?
Yeah, you know what? Tell me how Roger has more of a sentence coming toward him than freaking Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ combined.
Yes.
Combined, dude. Like, that's messed up.
Well, it's just political persecution. It is what it is. So, I mean, I guess we'll see it play out, but I would say, okay, so it seems like the consensus here is Ross greater than 50%, Roger sub 50%, Julian Assange, no chance, man. But he's out and he can hang out in Australia as long as he doesn't cause too much other grief. Like Snowden would be pretty good also if he could get it. That's just a bridge too far, I think, at this point. He's not in the spotlight.
Yeah, unless the narrative can change, it's like, holy cow, like America is scaring away all these smart, talented people. Like what shouldn't we be trying to attract these people? Like, what are they asking for? They're asking for the truth. They're asking for the opportunity to be venture capitalistic and entrepreneurial, and like we're scaring these people away. Like if the tonality from America can be like, no, like these are the people we want here. And if that can be like the message of the regime that, we want truth tellers, we want venture capitalists, we want entrepreneurs, and we want to do all this. Like that's like the sentiment like you're sort of hearing, and like a lot of things that Malay has gone, and spoke. He told, like, I love when he went to the IMF and said the entrepreneurs are the heroes of society and stuff like that, not the politicians. And it doesn't feel like we're there yet. It feels preemptive, but that would be an awesome America to live in.
David Hudman says Kim.com pardon chance. That's in the single digits at best. That's not a big one on the agenda. I'm sorry. He's European and he's in the Southern Hemisphere. So, like, what do you mean between those factors? As if the Americans are going to care.
Yeah, I appreciate Kim. He actually just had a stroke, right?
Yeah, thoughts with him as well too. Jeez. Anyway, I guess we'll see how it plays out then over the course of the year. Okay, storyline number 2 from 2024. I thought, was this the best Bitcoin Cash year ever? I think it honestly might have been the biennial curse 2018 BSV split, 2020 XAC split, 2022 CoinFlex meltdown, 2024 nothing went wrong. In fact, it all transferred over to the BTC guys and they got wrecked. We had Bliss and the BCH Argentina conferences were both amazing. Ablo launched smoothly, VM limits locked in, cash tokens has been flourishing. We saw with MUSD, BCH Bull, Cauldron, etc. Wallets have improved, apps have improved, merchant onboarding is still happening. It's been less of a focus, but there's still hubs of merchants. The community's been growing. The media's been swinging in our favor. Community unity and morale both very high. Price has been going up. Hijacking Bitcoin. You couldn't ask for much more, right? On the BCH wish list, has it been the best year for Bitcoin Cash ever? Yes or no, Ryan?
It's up there. I mean, I feel like the first year, even though it was met with a lot of hostility, was met with a lot of possibility, right? At the initial fork, and like when we made the run at the hash and price went to $4,000, and that would be the only year that I think could every other year has had its fix of trials and tribulations, but it's made BCH the defiant community that it is now. I remember when the fork first happened and being happy and excited about it, and but every day you felt like the narrative was so strong against you. Now, like, whenever you upload a BCH video, like the amount of hate is very small when it used to be like extremely high. Maybe I would say this is probably the best year. First year it was full of hopium, and this was a great year for sure.
Well, that first year, that's 2017, you mean, with the price spike and everything, that was only really even half a year. Like, that is only the fork. This is post-fork. I'm even tempted to say that this might be the best Bitcoin year ever, counting from 2009 and considering BCH. I mean, 2014 was actually a pretty good year for Bitcoin. But I think, I think it might have been. And probably also 2011 was also a pretty good year. But anyway... Kallisti, what do you think? Has this been the best BCH year ever?
It's certainly been the best BCH year that I've been a part of. So I think overall, yeah, if we just look at the history, I'd say, yeah, everything is really optimistic right now. Community sentiment is like, our morale is better than I've ever seen it. The narrative is better than I've ever seen it. Just like we predicted last year, explosion in cash tokens tech, explosion in wallet development. We got ABLA, and that's huge. We've got the VM limits coming next year. That's huge, right? Like, we've just been doing a really good job on basically every front. And I mean, I'm just going back thinking about 2022, like, the community was depressed, man, and rightfully so. Like, with that, especially after CoinFlex and after the Smart BCH meltdown, like, that was just not good. We speculated that Roger himself might have even capitulated there, and we were scooping up his coins at 90 a pop. Depression, man. So I think going from coins at 90, 100, 110 a pop up to, we just hit like 600 a week or two ago. It's come back down since then, but I mean, that's a lot of optimism that is coming our way. And I really feel like we're going to keep riding that trend forward. It's looking really good.
Yeah, I'm just remembering us being number 2 in the market cap, and like thinking back to getting there.
He's on a high. We get number 2. We nearly made it. Well, I guess Emergent says Microsoft and Steam accepting Bitcoin was the biggest year, and I think that's what I was talking about. That might not have been 2014. I think that might have been 2015. Maybe 2016, but 2014 in Feb, Mt. Gox blew up, so that probably wasn't the best year. But it was 2015 or 2016 we were into the block size wars. So on the all-timer list, I think 2015 is up there, and then maybe 2024 has been the second best one. All right, Jet, do you have a take here, just quickly? Best BCH year ever? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right, brilliant. Okay, quick shout out to the podcast FundMe. If you're enjoying the show, you can go to fundme.cash and get some sats to us. We're 80% funded. We need 4 more BCH, and that will guarantee you episodes up to number 145. The show is at 9K Twitter followers. Now, here's something. My Twitter followers have started growing again. For literally most of this year, I've been stuck between, 8,500 and 9,000. Obviously, some people are always following and unfollowing, so it goes up and down. But now it's started ticking up again. So I'm on the road to 10K, and I feel like we have broken through on the narrative once I started seeing that. And we've also passed 2,500 YouTube subs, so things are going well for the show. Fundme.cash, send us some sats. Okay, number 3. Storyline in crypto was much harder. The first 2 I thought was really obvious, and I thought, what else was a big story in crypto this year? And I came to realize that my storyline is that the crypto industry has been confused. Nobody really knows what's going on, okay? BCH is on its mission to global reserve currency. That part is clear. But everybody else is in a mess. We've had meme coins, which was just the next round after NFTs and ICOs. We've had celebrities like Iggy Azalea and stuff getting involved, but not really too clear what they're doing there, except trying to make some money, basically. People are talking about privacy is really important with the Samurai shutdown and the Tornado loss, and then they won, and then Roger was under pressure, but then things are swinging back in his favor. The ETH community are doubting their roadmap. What was going on with Solana? Are they going to wreck us or not? Michael Saylor came out and said there's no need for self-custody, prices at all-time highs, but then the BTC people are like, what's happened? Saylor's now turned on us, even though he's just said the same thing as always. CBDCs didn't show up at all. Regulation was getting better. amongst all of it, I could just see outside of BCH, the whole industry is just shifting around, trying to figure out what are we actually doing here? What's the point of any of this? They don't have P2P cash as their North Star, and even though people have made a bit of money in the bull run, there's not a strong sense of what is actually the point and how do we actually, where are we going and how do we get there? I feel it's missing in B2C, in ETH, in various other meme coins. I just think the whole industry is just super confused. This is a bit more of an out there one. Ryan, what do you think? Is this a good hypothesis?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the bull market, it was a big undertone. Everyone's bags are bigger. So but then it brings the question is, okay, our bags are bigger. How are we going to actually make them bigger? And at the end of the day, like we're going to get out of the fun phases of halvings and actually have to deliver things. So I think there's a lot of that, and there's popular. What's the crypto girl? She's got a pretty big following. She's what's her follow? The one that she also renounced her citizenship. He's the same attorney and crypto
chick, whatever her name is, blockchain chick, whatever.
Yeah, I guess she's like like really questioning Bitcoin and seeing people like that are just like more like just getting the narrative. I don't know if you guys saw. There's a politician actually. I don't think she's ever been elected. She just ran for office. Martha Bueno on Twitter. She's down in Miami. I mean, she really caught the BCH narrative this year. She wore a Roger dress. I don't know if you guys saw that.
That was really cool, actually. Yeah, inspired by AOC. I gotta say, I still think the AOC one was actually great. I gotta admit, like that whole tax the rich thing, like that was an iconic look, even if I completely disagree with it. I think AOC nailed it on the fashion front, and Martha did actually it was a good callback for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they have this confusion and like trying to guide people towards real solutions. Even. Yeah, and the ETH thing, I think we got right, last year in the prediction of, one thing that Sol's doing right. It turns out cheap transactions are popular. Like, what a concept. So that them really having to figure out their roadmap. But yeah, I think overall, that everyone's just kind of happier they're making money, but understanding, what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Like people challenge me like on Twitter and say, what do you, you're a loser, vote, investing in BCH. I'm like, I can invest in Raytheon or some defense stock and make money, but like that has no interest to me. Like, I try to make money investing, sure, but like I'd rather like make a little bit less money by investing in the future world I want to see. And if even if I lost all my money, I could live with myself. So I think that trying to get that message out more. If you're winning right now in price, but you haven't actually accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. Did you really win? And that's kind of like the overall sentiment that I feel and try to express to people that don't seem to have a mission.
Yeah, Kallisti, what do you think? Crypto confused?
Definitely confused. And I think looking at from our perspective, we're playing the long game, but we also have a bit of a timer on us too, because like I was saying, like that whole race to 2030 thing earlier, we're going to run out of security budget too. So the sooner that we can all get aligned on what the actual point is of all of this stuff is the sooner that we can actually change the world that we want to see. I mean, it's all just memes and garbage right now. I think the hijacking narrative is really kind of putting it in people's minds, reframing it back to, okay, what was the point? It was peer-to-peer cash for the world. It was self-sovereignty. It was privacy. It's we want to get away from all of these evils that come with the fiat system. We don't want to just recreate the fiat system. So I think it's really important to stay focused on that.
Yeah, and touch on that sailor comment again. I listened to like the like a longer part of the clip, and like it was so it was such a bad response from the perspective that I know we have it for our intro for Bliss, but like the actual question was her giving an example of Americans specifically getting rugged on their gold, and she's like, aren't you scared this is going to happen with Bitcoin? And he goes, that's just crypto anarchists being conspiracy theorists. But she just gave you a real world example on why it's not a conspiracy and like never addressed that part of the question. So yeah, I think everyone should be questioning everything and looking for better solutions. And So I think I think we're in that confused phase, and I think potentially that means this year we're lined up to capture people. I definitely think you see people like, okay, I've picked Monero now, or I've picked Bitcoin Cash now, or picked that. A resetting of convictions will come from this confused state.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe something we can highlight then for the BCH community. It's always been a strong point that BCH has had a strong vision and mission, the white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash. And I laugh every time I see somebody commenting on Twitter saying, you guys lost, can you just quit it with this P2P cash thing and just go away? Like, we've all had enough of that. Can you just stop saying it? And every time I laugh at it, I'm like, no, mate. No, just because you're sick of it. That's the whole point. We've been saying forever, we're going to keep saying it because it's correct. The truth doesn't rust. So I think maybe in 2025 that's got to be a big focus. I think we're doing a good job of it, but perhaps we can really focus on it still, is having a strong vision, a strong explanation of, okay, the plan is get to 8 billion people making 5 transactions per day on chain with their own seed words, peer-to-peer electronic cash, uncensorable, all on layer 1, like just hammering away on that, because when people are confused and in a loss of what to do, the people who are like, right, we're going this way, are obviously going to be attractive because they at least, have a game plan, right? And I think that's something we can benefit a lot from, being seen as decisive, right? And we've been on that track for a long time, so it's not like we need to do anything different necessarily, but just keep making a public point of that, because people will be looking for like leaders and reasons to get on something that is about more than just the price or meme coins or whatever latest nonsense is going on. Does anybody want to take a guess at what will be the next nonsense we've seen? We've had ICOs, we've had NFTs, we've had meme coins. Is it going to be another year of meme coins, or what's next?
I mean, hopefully peer-to-peer cash is next.
AI managed coins is going to be the thing, I've
got
AI
the
smartest AI. Exactly. I've got the smartest agent managing my coins, so the distribution is better than yours because I had the 200 IQ AI agent controlling it and coding the node and stuff like that. That's going to be the next thing?
Yeah, I think you'll still kind of see the corporatist nature of BTC get rolled out to everyone. I think that there'll be a fresh spin on that, and that's with obviously with the coins not being, becoming inflationary. Maybe not so much that this year, but maybe more so in terms of why someone else should hold your coins, and maybe the government. I feel like that's probably the race to sailors probably chasing is get a strategic reserve. Teach them how to paper over it, and getting, this will be still, you'll have control of the system. This is the corporatist nature of it, but it'll be better sell to the public. You'll seem more like a free market person in the world, and you can, that's something I think that will likely, the rebranding of BTC, the second hijacking will be in full place probably.
The second hijacking. I love that. Kallisti.
I'm kind of thinking, maybe we actually might, even if it's not peer-to-peer cash, maybe we see kind of a pivot toward more utility type things. Maybe people start developing more like token-based apps. I know last year I was talking about like ticket type stuff or supply chain type stuff. And I know there's been some attempts of that, say like around 2021 or sometime around there. So maybe something like that. I also know that privacy is like a huge narrative right now. So I think privacy coins will probably see a lot of attention. We are already kind of seeing that with Xano, Zcash, and Monero. A lot of the BTC people are kind of rallying around Monero, especially Zcash to a slightly lesser degree, it seems like. And then Xano, as Roger had just mentioned, I guess is like some kind of bridge layer between multiple cryptos that adds privacy to all of them. So that's kind of interesting. And I know this is something I've been championing for BCH as well, since I think the two most major disagreements that people have with BCH to this day are on the privacy front and on the governance front. And I personally think governance is a non-issue, but privacy is definitely something that can be addressed with the new upgrades that are coming through. So I think if we give that a little more time to cook, then we'll start taking some of the privacy market as well.
All right, that's perfect segue then to 2025. We just had our big stories from 2024. This is where we get a bit more speculative about the next year. I've got some thoughts here on the slide that I had in my mind as I was planning this episode. So BCH would be really good if we could drive some more on-chain volume. I think we can keep doing better with our stats and open sourcing that. The Moria guys put out some stats, which was great as well. BCH Podcast has it, Celine has it, BCH Gurus has it, AFOG has it as BCH Bull. I think they do announce some stats, but I don't know if they even have a page where you could just see all the stats. That would be a great thing for them to have. I think with our memes and our online promotion, maybe we can be a bit better about being more proactive. Like this last year, we've had to do so much of debunking of propaganda, and the year before as well. So that was a lot of focus went onto that. But now that the hijacking's kind of in the Overton window, I think we can maybe focus our meme attention on like helping people onboard to BCH services or discover new parts of the ecosystem instead. Bliss will be in May, round 2. That's looking good, and then Townsville in August. So we've got a couple nice conferences there, and everyone recommended to rock up to one or both of those. I probably plan to be at both, I'd say. Then we got the VM limits and big nums going to be going live in May, and Jason Dreisner's new chips, loops, op eval, and pay to script, which is maybe going to help with privacy or with scripting or different things like that. And obviously the big nums unlocks a lot of cryptography that could also help BCH kind of get back in the race on the privacy front. Do you have any thoughts on how 2025 is shaping up and what you want to see in BCH specifically, Ryan?
Yeah, I think we're doing such a good job of laying out, reasons for more demand of the coin, cash tokens, VM limits, and to being able to deal with the increased volume. I think Kallisti, I would agree with two things Kallisti said. Was one, first, privacy, and that can be addressed through tokenization, and looking to see some products get delivered on that. I guess the other big question in the back of my mind rests, this will, if these things go well, solve a lot of the security concerns. Like Kallisti laid out 2030 being a date we should be worried about. But even now, demand is one of the strong possible solutions for it, making us, very strong to attack, making us very strong to, in terms of the miners verifying the network and keeping the economic incentive there. So I think, so this is the roadmap we're following. We're building the tools to lay out more demand. Following on-chain activity for that, those kind of metrics and TVL, we're laying out the tools for that, and just how much we'll be successful in that in the next 5-6 years will be critical to the future of BCH. So
2025, Kallisti?
Kind of piggybacking off of what Ryan just said, in terms of TVL, I do want to point out the more that we are developing the crypto native ecosystem, the less that we actually need to exit the crypto native ecosystem is the more that we're going to actually ironically see price increases, because that's less coins circulating on the centralized exchanges. That's less price manipulation that could potentially be happening there. Whether it is or isn't is a different topic, but we just completely remove the ability for that to happen if things are locked into the native ecosystem. So, if you're using Moira USD or you're using BCH Bull or anything like that, keeping those coins in the network and off of the exchanges is going to be a huge boon to us. As far as the 2025 upgrades, I think between ABLA and the VM limits. Not exactly saying we could like ossify right now because that's not really true, but if we did, it certainly wouldn't have the same blowback as it would on the BTC side. So that's pretty cool for us. If we kept things as they are now, really the most major issues that we would run up to are like some of our contracts wouldn't be quite as efficient as they could be. We're going to definitely run into that timestamp bug that I keep thinking about making a research topic on because nobody's talking about it. And you know, things of that nature. The ABLA limit that's actually like kind of soft capped at I think 2 gigabytes due to a technical limitation. So like stuff like that, even though 2 gigabyte blocks is like twice Visa capacity, right? That's still a roadblock on our goal to peer-to-peer cash for the entire world, right? So it's just like things like that. So even though we're looking really good on the tech front, we're looking really good on the governance front with the chip process, there's still more work to be done, but I think we are in a good position. And I think going forward in 2025, having more observability into how good we are doing through the stats and metrics, like you're saying, I think that should be a really big focus. Earlier in this year, I was saying 2024 is going to be the year of BCH stats, and then we didn't quite get to it until like halfway through the year. So I think we can more confidently say that 2025, having all of those metrics already available and having some history behind it too, is going to look really good for us. It's going to be something that we can point to as we continue fighting these narrative wars. And really, we can even point at people outside of crypto Twitter and outside of the internet. We can go into real life and be like, hey, look, we're actually doing this. Here's the stats to back it up. Here's the cool apps and stuff that you can do. Here's the utilities. Here's the entry points. Here's everything that you like couldn't even imagine was possible, but yet here it is. Let's see Cash App do that, right? So I think that again, I've been really coming into this whole episode with a lot of optimism, and I think it's justified. I think we're just doing a really good job. We've been making the right moves. We've been able to avoid major mistakes. We've been able to avoid major blunders, and we just need to keep doing what we're doing. We need to keep building and trying to keep pushing the actual real adoption. I think some of the other major things that we could be doing to drive that adoption, and I know that we're also going to be addressing this as the Selene team, is stuff like better e-commerce integrations, better like meat space point of sale type things. Paytaka is doing a really great job on meat space point of sale, and I'd want to add to that the maps that they have going on as well. The map problem has been pervasive for the past couple of years. We want to collaborate with the rest of the ecosystem and solve it once and for all with open source data. And with integration with point of sale services, so that we actually have accurate data. That's the most important thing. So just all of these things that make the ecosystem more accessible, more useful, those are going to be the things that are going to drive demand and make it more compelling to get new users in. And then we'll have the stats to prove that that's what we're actually doing. And I think that's going to be the major focus for 2025.
What about these upgrades? Any quick thoughts on, while I've got you on the show, Jason Dreisner, Loops, Op Eval, Pay to Script, 2026. Nobody else has brought up any other chips like subsats or even anything to do with quantum resistance. UTXO commitment seems to be still in the research phase. In terms of protocol upgrades, how are we looking, Kallisti?
So protocol upgrades, I want to do more evaluation on all the nuance and pros and cons of loops and eval. I don't fully understand Pay to Script yet. I haven't looked into it enough, but it seems legit, I guess, just based on like my preliminary evaluation there. So yeah, loops and eval, I see the potential there. I just want to understand it more in depth. I mean, like I initially support it, right, with my naive outlook right now. But there are some concerns, like, okay, if we have loops and that makes transaction sizes smaller in terms of like byte size, how is that going to impact fees, for instance? How is that going to impact fees in terms of how much computation you're able to buy? And our VM limits chips addresses this, which is the only reason that we can even think about loops or eval or anything like that. But the research isn't fully fleshed out yet. And while, you know, like, for example, loops in particular, like, Bitcoin script is based on a programming language called Forth. So it's not like this is unprecedented. It's not like this is completely unresearched. It's just we need the chip to be a little more fleshed out, kind of like what we were saying with Biggins before we pushed it. Like, we want to make sure all of the details are there, easily digestible by everyone, that we actually did think it through from as many angles as we can. So I'm initially here in support of those chips. I wouldn't make like a formal statement of approval yet, not until more research has been done and documented, but it seems like good ideas to me. And then as far as 2026, the stuff on the table there, so I was a pretty big proponent for millisats, like the subsats. I still think overall that's a pretty good idea, but not a very high priority because, I mean, frankly, we don't need it until we have like another 100x price increase at a minimum anyway. Quantum resistance can be done on the transaction layer, like directly in script, just like we can with privacy tools. So that's not really something that necessarily needs to be chipped on the protocol level right away. We can kind of let the market decide what implementations are going to be best there. There might even be new cryptography technologies that come out that kind of address this, whether it's on some other blockchain network or you know, through some kind of academic research. It's a relatively new threat, but not something to be dismissed, I would say. And then UTXO commitments is also something that doesn't necessarily need to happen on the protocol level right away. We already do have UTXO commitments in, I believe, the BCHD and Verde nodes. They have like their own fast sync implementations. So while it's not a consensus or protocol level, the research is being done. It's obviously a good idea. Even on the BTC side, they're doing similar research. We all know that UTXO commitments and proper pruning, all as outlined, well, UTXO commitments aren't in the white paper, but pruning is. And this is all related to just the overall scalability thing. Let's go back to the beginning of the episode. Scalability is not just increasing block size. There are all of these other considerations that you have to put in there. So overall, yeah, I mean, good upgrades in the pipeline. Not everything needs to be consensus, but it's all stuff that needs to be researched one way or another.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, my thought, Kallisti said something interesting about like, hey, we could ossify for a while and be good for a long time too. But I think what's critical right now is we're laying out all this infrastructure that's going to lead to more demand within our ecosystem is to get them in as soon as possible, because as the community gets much larger, we could face a similar kind of contentions that we saw back in the BTC days or that they face now and they can't get anything done. So the further we can lay out the roadmap, the better, you know, this tool will be, you know, while we get to sit on, you know, and be a part of the conferences and be all the big dogs, there's going to be, you know, a lot of infiltration that'll happen as these toolings here. So that while they're out there, you know, and we're ahead of the market or at least certain competitors, you know, being proactive now and getting ahead of them, we've learned is extremely critical. And that's why a tool like Avo is so important to make sure that there's not another contention at a 32, you know, megabyte block or something like that. Because while now things, you know, and I'm not saying they're easy by any means, but like, compared to how difficult it is to get anything done in BTC, and they're like trying so desperately, I think they're a good example to look at, like why it's so important to keep on improving now. Because while we are building useful tools and the world needs this tool, it's going to get harder to get things done as more, you know, as we need consensus in this type of ecosystem.
Yeah, good thoughts. Good thoughts.
I agree with that. Can I say something on that also? I think one major difference that's worth pointing out here on the BCH side is the nature of our decentralization. So when we say that Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol, that's not just about you know, the node count or whatever. We have decentralization in node development. We have like 5 different consensus compatible node implementations. So if, let's say, Bitcoin Cash node goes rogue for some reason, there, you know, we can always jump over to BCHD or Flowy or Knuth or you know, all of the other ones, they're Verde, you know. So that's, you know, one line of defense that we have. And then we also have our chip process. I think one of the major things that they don't have on the BTC side is like an actual like completion criteria. Like, what does consensus look like? And they're starting to take notes from us because they have a document that they started doing, like a spreadsheet of here's everything that's on the table. And then here's a list of developers. Do you support, or are you evaluating, or are you skeptical, you know? So that's what our stakeholders document and the chip process is for, but we are more proactive about it. We're aggressively like emailing every single entity we could possibly think of in the ecosystem, every single company, every single node runner that has actual stake. So I think that's another thing to point out is our node runners and our infrastructure runners actually have stake in the ecosystem. For instance, my node that all of the Selene users connect to and that runs a block explorer is probably a little more important to the overall ecosystem than some random guy in some random country who's running a Raspberry Pi in his bedroom, right? Because what are you doing for consensus at that point? So if I switch my node from Bitcoin Cash node to some other implementation, that's going to affect every single Selene user that connects to that node, right? So if all of a sudden I decide to just make that decision and fork myself off the network and affect all of my users that way, right? Well, they can just jump ship to a different node, but the point being, like, that is the economic impact, that is the consensus impact of that node. So, you know, Coinbase switches their node out to something random, BlackRock coin. What are you going to do about it? You're not going to do anything about it because they're the ones who have the economic activity. That's the important part. They're the ones who have the users. So I think all of those pieces in line, the decentralized development, the actual chip process with real criteria, real evaluation of the process, as well as the economic impact of all of the various nodes that are running, that makes a huge difference in our ability to actually get things done. Because if you don't have skin in the game, you're just simply not going to be taken seriously. And again, even if you're not taken seriously on a social level, are you being taken seriously on an economic level? That's really what talks. Proof of work, as always.
Yeah, no, I like Ryan's point that when you're ahead and we're looking good at sort of leading the industry on a number of these upgrades and so forth, get further ahead. You know, we've just got to keep hammering home that advantage with the next round of upgrades. And I like the fact that we're at a point now where UTXO commitments, subsats, quantum resistance. In 5 years, we probably need all of those things. Do we need them next year? Probably not. Or the year after? Probably not. But now's the time to crack on and have them all cooking in people's minds on the research forum, so that when we're on this episode in 3 years' time, we can just be saying check, check, check. We worked through those boxes and everything got delivered. Now, it's good that you bring it up on that topic of the BTC guys. They've started copying the chip process a little. You can see though how it's not refined. You know, chip is real simple. It's approve, deny, or neutral, and almost everyone approves because you have the lead up period and you have the discussion, and then things ship. We've got a timeline, we've got people who are responsible, and it all just works. They're kind of in a bit of a haze trying to figure out how do we give points to different people, how many different ways can you strongly approve or sort of weakly approve or disapprove or neutral or evaluating. You know, it's like they're trying to copy us, but instead of just realizing these guys have got it figured, let's just do what they're doing, they're trying to reinventing the wheel a bit, which is taking them quite a while. And then, of course, once they do that, they will struggle actually convincing. I just saw Jimmy Song just put out a post that was super popular saying, BTC is winning, BlackRock is just FUD, we're doing great. Everybody relax. Bitcoin is, prices at all-time highs. So the ones who want to be making changes, firstly, they have to get themselves all lined up, which they're making progress on, but they're still not that close to. And then at the same time, they have a whole other part of the community that is not going to want to listen to them no matter how much documentation and stuff. They'll just say, you're a shitcoin to go away, right? So Eric has also been coming out with his OpCat, and he made a big post like, we're gonna, it's a one last chance to get a soft fork in 2025. We've kind of got to them, right? They're realizing there is a bit of urgency here, and they do actually need to have a deadline in 2025. Are we going to see finally the CTV people kick off, like Moon Settler's client? Is he going to release something? Is Eric going to try and shove OpCat over the line and fail and then switch to BCH? What's the outlook there, lads?
Well, I mean, yeah, and just going back, I was telling you, Jeremy, I think yesterday when we were speaking, that I listened to an interview of Jeff Garzik, and he asked, Satoshi got so many things right, but he asked Satoshi back in 2011 hey, we should increase the block size to 4 megabyte. And Satoshi said, no, I think it's a little too soon for that. This kind of thing, and just looking at that example of ossifying and improving, if we can learn not only from a lot of the good what made Bitcoin popular, but also what's caused a lot of its issues. I think looking at the past is critical to make sure we get the future correct. But I think it's and even just looking at the solution, even what he's doing over there, he's trying to create some other connection tool between ETH and BTC, and he thinks that's where the demand will be. Or are people really going to go through all those complications to use a useful tool? Or I think the answer is they're going to want a good base layer ground up tool, and that's why he's just going to where the crowd is now. But I don't think the crowd will be there. But yeah, that's why I think it's so awesome that it actually kind of worked out in our favor that, we've been smaller for some time now. And because, and again, I just reiterate what I said, I don't see, if we're successful, I don't see it always being as easy. And the more we can get right now, the more we can impact the future.
But do you think the BTC guys are going to try a fork next year? They're going to try an upgrade and then faceplant, or are they going to spend? Because when you look back at that episode from last year, one of the craziest things we're talking about, the CTV guys were saying like, holy shit, CTV has been out for years. It's not fast, guys. It's taking fucking forever. And that was at the start or the end of last year. That was 1 whole year ago. And we're 1 year later, they've made zero progress. There's no client released. Moon Settlers thing didn't really come together. Nothing got shipped. Yeah. Nothing's happened. Are we going to be here in a year's time where they've wasted another year?
I mean, the story in my mind is that the establishment of BTC does not want peer-to-peer electronic cash. And will this do enough to appease them, to give them a little something to allow them not to cause some major defection, an issue? That's do they throw them some crumbs? It depends on how cataclysmic the establishment thinks it is. And if they can just pacify them by giving them a reward or not, I think they'll make that estimation. Okay, is this going to be very bad for BTC continuing to be getting some L2 CBDC? I think that we didn't. The thing that we're missing, why CBDC is maybe not the thing, is I think BTC is the CBDC. Is the ultimate goal, and I think it's what the establishment wants, or sees the most practical way that they can't stop it, but we can control it. Kind of narrative. That's the story in my mind.
Kallisti?
I don't know. So I am not so sure that they're going to really make progress on anything. I think they might attempt a fork. I think that will send the whole crypto market, as far as like the social sentiment, I think it's going to introduce a lot of chaos. I think they might make an attempt. I really do. I think that there is enough of a dedicated developer cohort, I guess, that is interested in actually making a tangible improvement. However, I think that the steps that they're taking aren't tangible enough. They're not palpable enough, right? So where's the code? That's what I want to know. Where's the actual node implementation? And unfortunately, when I talk to some of these people who are talking about the upcoming changes, like their stakeholder document for CTV, et cetera, and there was one person in particular I asked, okay, well, what comes next after you've established this support on paper? Is it going to be a pull request directly to Bitcoin Core? Is it going to be an alternate node implementation? Guess what the response was? Blocked. So I don't know. What are you guys going to do? BTC, figure it out. Like, or don't. Just come. We already figured it out. Just come hang out with us. You're invited.
Yeah, the idea of BTC forking too, just as someone who's lived through a fork, they should know how hard it is, rather than if you want to just come and build, understand what we're trying to build. And if you align enough with that, like rebuilding everything that you talked about, Kallisti, on and just running the wallets and this actual scaling that comes post the scaling solution, to start from zero from there seems like illogical in my opinion. Rather than finding, a coin that has a $10 billion market cap already and in a thriving ecosystem, creating a whole new fork seems tiresome as someone that's lived through the last 7 years or however long it's been. But that was
we just gotta look at history.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't want to do that. Their ego or their sunk cost is, okay, we can convince BTC to change. It's we can fix her. I can fix her. That's what it is. That's all these BTC guys with the nut job girlfriend that is never ever going to change, and they're still like, we can fix it, with their pathetic, little attempts to create the little developer consensus. All they need to do is look at all these laser eyes who are like, no, we're just going to tell BlackRock to fuck off. Well, good luck with getting your CTV into the heads of people who are in that state of mind,
Yeah. So you mentioned fork too. I don't. To answer your question, I don't think BTC will fork. Will they migrate if they don't get what they want? If he says 2025 is the year, is that what he's saying? Is if we don't get it this year, I'm finally done? And we just came to that conclusion years prior. I just think everyone's going to have to reach that conclusion, in their crypto journey, as everyone usually comes through BTC, right, and then ends up somewhere else. But everyone has to hit that maturity, I guess. So.
I'm not going to name any names, but we've definitely heard of at least one person who says that they're going to rage quit crypto before they switch to BCH. So I really do think that the sunk cost is really strong on that side of the fence, and they really want to improve what they think is the one true Bitcoin. I think we've abandoned the whole one true Bitcoin thing for the most part and just embraced we are what we are, even if we still think we're the one true Bitcoin or whatever. Like it's just a matter of, well, good luck convincing other people of that because they have the name. We just got to be our own thing, stand on our own legs, and just be better.
Well, Bitcoin Cash just is Bitcoin in St. Kitts in Townsville, where people are just using it every day. That's how we're going to win in the long arc of things. And in the meantime, doesn't matter. You don't need to. You just say, okay, things have been split long enough. Yeah, things have been split long enough now. Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin Cash. It's BCH. It's green. Problem solved. But I think that's going to be 2025 is going to be the year of the crossroad for the BTC non-ossifiers. If I had to predict, I think Eric and Udi will try and get a Opcat fork in. They hoaxed their whole community saying they were going to do it in 2024 and then didn't deliver. In 2025, they might make a second fresh attempt at it, crash land it, discover it's a lot harder than they think to actually get any traction at all, let alone fix the hijacking, let alone run your own coin after a split. But they might try something. It reminds me of BSV, like those guys with fractal Bitcoin and stuff. They'll try something, it'll prove 10,000 times harder than they thought in their mind it was, and then they'll just quietly capitulate, a couple of months after, pretending that it never happened. That's my take of what's going to happen with CTV and or Opcat, basically.
I do actually need to give some props to the XEC and the BSV guys for actually putting some code where their philosophy is, which is something we have not seen on the BTC side. So as much as I'm always going to hate on BSV in particular, at least they did something.
That's it. They actually did split off, and that's already more than can be said for BTC people. All right, that's enough dunking on them, but I do love that. That's one of my favorites. Okay. Predictions. We got to get accountability from last year as well as maybe some fresh stabs. Ryan is first up in the pressure cooker. So he said $2,000 price prediction by end of year, even being a little bit conservative, up to a 3K or 4K peak. I said to you last year, mate, you're going to regret these words. Do you regret that? How far off were you realistically?
I think I was 3 to 5 months off.
Oh, wow, he's doubling down. 2025 is going to be the year. Is that it?
I do think, I think, I knew it would be a very good year for, also, I'll look at BCH price, and I also am very, I follow total market cap pretty closely. So we did eclipse a new total market cap high for crypto. And how that gets flushed out. And I think total market cap, if I can make another prediction, will exceed $5 trillion this year, which how that flows through. I think we got somewhere in the high 3 trillion. So it's not too much of a jump from here. I think when last year, probably around this time, we were probably more around 2 trillion. So we've had a pretty exponential jump. But yeah, I think like from the speculative nature of crypto and how things move going through, another bull cycle. What I think happens is that the big, coins, the people, if you're holding a lot of BTC or a lot of ETH or a larger market cap, they kind of game markets, if you will. I think Roger famously said publicly that insider trading should not be illegal, which I tend to agree with, but that's a whole other conversation. So I think we'll see like that kind of nature of people just trying to, put liquidity and move markets, get enough liquidity out and move it. So unfortunately, I think that's where a lot of the price movement moves, along with the halving and the other considerations. The real true market value of crypto in general should be a lot lower in terms of actual real world adoption. They should all be a lot lower. But it's a very speculative trading market, and it does have a large value proposition. It hopes to fulfill, so a lot of that future, executions priced in. But yeah, I guess I am kind of doubling down. I think we're going to get there. I don't think we finish next year at it. If I had to make a price prediction for next year, I think we finish somewhere around $800, $900. I think we have a fun ride up, and by the end of the year, we kind of land somewhere down. So I think we go up from here. I think we could I definitely think 2000's in the cards. 3 to 4,000, it's hard to tell. But yeah, for some reason, because we've already done so much in terms of total market cap, it's hard to say, how much of that love will come to BCH. And I think I was pretty right on a lot of the rage putting on for BTC advocates. Are they all fully in BCH? No, I think it's a little off on that, but definitely, there's very publicly, the Vlad show was a pretty hey, I was a big BTC LT Lightning Network guy. I realized I'm wrong on this, and he's not a BCH guy by any means, but you're seeing that overall defection take place on a broad scale, and I think the rest, I think we will start seeing more people come to BCH or even come back to BCH. I think I'm seeing a bit more of that. We talked about Stephen Patterson yesterday, who I thought was kind of more of a BSV guy, but publicly made some very bullish statements about BCH, saying, man, I can see this whole narrative collapsing and everyone just rushing into BCH and saying, well, we did get it wrong, and I think last year in last year's video, I said how they will reason this, of coming back to BCH is, saying we got, we were right on a lot of fronts. They'll have to mentally break this down in their brain, and maybe that full cycle hasn't taken place yet, but they have to logically, they just can't think they're dumb, right? People don't like to view themselves in a positive light in the world. So I think that reasoning process is still taking place.
All right, so 800 to 900 end of year, 2000 peak during the year before bliss. It sounds like, oof, that's optimistic, but okay. Anyway, I'll give you credit. Yep, some of the B2C advocates were switching over and capitulating. We've definitely seen plenty of that. So more of that trend, and maybe some more returning BCHs.
I think our overall top was we hit 700,
and
right?
5 trillion.
Yeah, 5 trillion total market cap. I think BCH year top was around $700.
700. Yeah. 700. All right. Okay. Fair enough. There you have it from the Oracle of Florida himself. Okay, Kallisti, you're up next. So your statements were $1,400 end of year price. Price could go range from 1K to 4K during the year 2024. You predicted a big growth in the cash tokens scene, BTC and ETH narratives collapsing, the rise of Monero, and a 50% chance of CBDC rollout. I gotta say, you're looking pretty good on this scorecard here. Not too bad. What do you make of it?
I mean, I'm actually kind of impressed at how close I was, to be honest. Okay, we didn't quite hit 1,000, although there is still a week left in 2024. I'm not getting my hopes up for that, but it could happen, right? We did get to almost 700, so all it takes is one quick little wick, even if it's just one. Growth of the cash token scene, that definitely happened. BTC and ETH narratives collapsing, definitely happening. Rise of XMR, definitely happening. 50% chance of CBDC rollout. I mean, we addressed that kind of earlier in the show. I don't know how I feel about CBDCs in general right now, just due to the changing political zeitgeist. Really, really hard for me to say on that. I don't think we're gonna imminently see a CBDC next year. That's how I was kind of feeling last year, is, oh man, that it might happen. I think if it was a Democrat won election this year in the US, I think I might be a little more fearful of that. I think we might have bought ourselves a couple years. So that's where I'm thinking about that. And as far as the price, next year, I mean, I think it's pretty realistic at this point that in 2025, we at least break our 2021 high, which I believe is somewhere around that 1,600 level.
1,600, yeah.
So I think that's actually realistic next year. I think the kind of time frames that we think about, I think we don't quite conceptualize that as humans, how long things actually take. And even if you are one of those people who tries to keep that in mind, even then, I think the prediction is still hard to say on such a long time frame, because I like to think that I'm a long-term thinker, but again, I was obviously wrong. Ryan was obviously wrong. But I think it's still a realistic. I think that the underlying thoughts on why we thought that kind of price could happen is definitely there. It's just not happening on the time scale that we thought. So I do think that both mine and Ryan's predictions are pretty solid if you're looking for another year going forward here. I do think that that's pretty realistic, actually, because we have actually done the groundwork on that.
And to be fair, I do this in my businesses too. I'll shoot like a number for the year, and we'll hit it the next year. So maybe it's another time when that happens. At least I definitely think our estimation of time and how long it takes to accomplish something as humans is a skill we can all get better at, or at least me.
Yes, everything takes longer than you expect. Kallisti, do you have any predictions for non-price? You nailed it actually this year. Cash tokens, BTC and ETH narrative, rise of XMR. What else are we going to see in 2025 besides the price?
So I think we're going to see continued collapse of the BTC narratives for sure. I think, Solana being an ETH killer, I think we're really starting to see that coming to fruition now. So I think I will double down on BTC and ETH narratives collapsing. I think I will double down on rise of Monero, but also add on Zcash, Xano, and other privacy tech. Like 2025 will be a huge year for privacy. And that includes BCH as well. Once we have that upgrade, I know I'm not the only one excited about trying to hit the ground running on developing privacy tech. So hopefully we'll see some developments there. Let's see, Cash tokens is going to continue to develop really nicely. MUSD, let's throw, because we did a 90-50-10 last year. So I'll be optimistic. I'll say 50% chance that MUSD gets listed on a major exchange, any centralized exchange.
Okay, nice. All right, good, definitely good thoughts. Okay, next up we have Jet. Quick one here. Jet with a pretty impeccable record, but didn't fire off too many shots, so I don't know how much credit we can give here. Price will remain below $1,000. Big tick for that one. I nailed it. And then you said, I'm going to just sit out on anything else. You were too unclear about the future last year. Any retrospective on whether the year was crazier or not than you thought? And come on, for 2025, you got to take a couple stabs here at what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting like the legal stuff to happen. Like with mostly Craig getting sentenced yesterday, amazing. I wish I predicted on that one, but anyway. I still don't feel pretty optimistic about price. I think the reason that I held out, I still want to hold out a little bit, but I think I can more articulate the points that it's dependent on. So I think the price will still stay like under 15,000 or not 15,000, 1,500. Of course it'll stay under 15,000. But if BTC does fork, and that fork isn't demolished immediately, then I think it does so much harm to both of those forks that BCH ends up winning by a long shot. And so if they do fork and that fork isn't destroyed within like a week, I think we could easily see like 3K.
That's a chain split, you mean? That they try and do a non-consensus upgrade with a split and everything,
Yes. But I do also still hold out for Tether collapsing. And if Tether collapses, I think BTC will be like 7K. Everything's going to get wiped out. Like, yeah, okay. I think that's like what I do know. That's how I feel for sure. I think everything else I'm a little wishy-washy on.
Do you want to take 10% stab on something crazy? It's low accountability. Just pop it off. I don't know. What would you like to see? What would be? What's on the wish list?
Oh, what's on the wish list? Oh, okay. 10% chance of quantum computing being significantly meaningful for crypto in the next year.
Okay. Yeah. Good one.
Jet, are we going over 1,000 this year?
This year? Like in the next 10 days?
2025. Did we do that?
I think it's possible. I don't think it's like, I think we'd probably sit around like $800, $900. But like, yeah, I think the range for me is like between 600 and like probably 12 or 1500, unless things go horribly in other cryptocurrencies. And then I think we're off to the races.
All right, finally, me. So I guess I can't score myself. Somebody else can give their thoughts on how I did. But my thoughts were $1,000 price prediction. I said high BTC and ETH fees will lead to a bull run, but it will underperform euphoric expectations. I said 100K BTC was a bit of a stretch. And everyone will be too poor to buy crypto because of ongoing inflation. That would shake up the narrative as people look for working coins, BCH, XMR, Doge, LTC, and Solana. And I also jumped on the bandwagon with Ryan that some of the minor BTC advocates will begin defecting to BCH. So Ryan, give me the review. How'd I do?
You were 30% off in price, which is I don't think that's a bad thing. That's a lot better than me. So I'll give you a C score on that. I got an F. High BTC fees will lead to a bull run. You did get the 100K BTC. That was a pretty bold thing I thought to come for. You thought BTC would underperform that drastically.
I thought it would get to 100. I said 100K could happen, but it was a bit. Yeah, barely made it, right?
Yeah, I mean the way I pose that story in my mind, yeah, it's barely there. I think it's under there today, but I think the good criticism towards BTC is just this lack of exponential performance anymore. That we are up 40% in the last 4 years, so you're getting a 10% annual return, which is as good as the S&P 500. So like the store value narrative just starts to capitulate as it's not that great of a store value versus the rest of the options people have. A lot of things probably had a better compound annual growth rate over the last 4 years from top to top. So that's why I think the number sounds fun and it's got a large market cap. But if it's trying to be a store of value, there's certainly a lot better other ones coming out there, and that's why I think it's going to ultimately turn into a Ponzi, in my opinion. But yeah, I think you took a bold stance there, because I think overall your evaluation I think is a good one. That we're seeing less exponential movements is because the fees are interfering with the ability for more people coming in the ecosystem to adopt, and therefore as soon as fees go high, price action diminishes. And I think there is something strongly there that's not accurately measured by a lot of people, and I think you do a good job standing out to bring that up because I don't hear that from a lot of other people. I think you're the only person actually, for the most part. So shout out to you for that. That's been a good call. Inflation, I can tell you, probably it's hard to tell. Again, we're not outperforming the market tops as we have, but certainly it's a larger market cap and harder to do. But I can tell you inflation definitely is eating up on everyone. You did get that right. I mean, as someone that I employ about 80 people, and I feel like I can just never pay them enough, or maybe they just tell me that how expensive things are. But certainly everything is very expensive, and hopefully with the Doge we stop printing as much money. But it definitely has a huge impact right now on the population. Things are eroding at people's disposable income. And this one you got 100% right. Will shake up narrative as people look for working coins. I stood a lot in the BCH hill in there, but certainly the rest of the ecosystems. I think you did a good job diversifying the rise of XMR, Doge. Litecoin has done very well. I see it's also ranking very high in stats on BitPay. Solana is wildly popular. And then, it's hard to point to that exact person that's, I think definitely if people were like friendly to BTC and friendly to BCH, we've gotten those people. All right, like, okay, but you're probably right, but I don't think we haven't gotten the Eric Walls yet. We haven't gotten, who is the Youssef guy that's now a Monero guy that owns that,
Ray Youssef, yeah.
Yeah. So he was one that I don't know if he was necessarily BTC before, but he was frustrated with BTC and speaking out massively against it this past year, and thinks he's found somewhat of a solution now. And Monero, I don't like to poke at Monero. I like what they do over there. So I think I give you a C+.
Okay, not bad, not bad. Well, now I'm gonna have some fresh predictions. So on the price, it's the second. It's like the second bull run year, but one where more of the money rotates into alts. So I think BTC dominance topped at 60%. I think I'll say that. We're at 57 or 56% now. I'm going to guess we're not going to go higher than that 60, and maybe we'll fall down to 45 or 40 to 45% BTC dominance. My dream scenario is much lower, but I've got to temper my expectations there. BCH price end of next year. What are we at today? 400 and something, right?
470.
I'm gonna go 1100. I'm gonna be a little more bullish. Everybody else is going 800 and 900, so I'm gonna be a little on the bullish side and say $1,100. I want to co-sign Kallisti's privacy narrative. I think that's going to be big. Monero, Zcash, Xano, anyone else jumping onto it, and also add that the VM limits with BCH, I think we'll get at least one sort of proto-privacy solution going on BCH as a result of the VM limits upgrade. Like, it won't be a world-changing, BCH is the world's best privacy coin, but I think 6 months is long enough for somebody to come out with some kind of project that is like, oh, okay, BCH can maybe have actually quite advanced privacy so that we can compete in that narrative, like Bitcoin Cash Autist or Jason Dreisner or somebody new could pop up and I think deliver that for us. I'm going to predict that Bliss will sell out its 100 tickets, and maybe we even need to issue a few more, and that we get much more interest sort of from the rest of the crypto scene in terms of a couple people show up who aren't sort of deep in the BCH rabbit hole, and that kind of makes a bit of a splash as people are like, wait, what's going on in BCH? And more people will definitely be watching the online stream and stuff to be like, what's happening here? I think the ETH community is going to be a disaster. I think Solana is going to keep gaining traction, and I think the ETH community is going to continue to doubt Justin Drake's Gigabrain EVM plans. Like, that's all going to come a bit unstuck as they find it hard to deliver with increasing competition and things ramping up elsewhere. The community can be a bit fickle. I think a lot of those ETH people will be less converted. They'll start just moving on to other things if the Justin Drake and the ETH Foundation can't get some sort of layer 1 scaling or fee decreases going. What else? I feel like I got to make one or two more. I think what's a long shot? Roger gets a pardon. That'll be my 10% one, which I would love to see. And probably a couple of rage quits from people in BTC. More attempts will be made to try and do a OpCat and or CTV client, but they'll have significant difficulties even in releasing the client, let alone actually shipping it as an upgrade that creates, because you can't go in, you either have to go hard or not. You can't just create your client and say, guys, we love this upgrade, and then all the laser eyes will laugh and say fuck off, and it's not going to go anywhere. So they actually have to do it the way Amori did it, which is we're forking at this height, we're adding the new consensus rules. If we split, we split, and we'll just win after that. That is how they'd have to do it, but they'll pussyfoot around that. They'll be too timid to actually just set a block, lock in, and go, because they know that they'll face plan and they'll crash and burn really badly if they do that. So they'll either won't release a client, or they will release a client, but it'll be a half-assed kind of effort. Won't really work out. There'll be a lot of salt and tears, and by the end of 2025, people in those camps will either be rage quitting or sheepishly defecting to BCH. Not tons of them, but a couple of them.
I do want to throw one more 10% in there because you just reminded me of it. 10% chance that Gavin Anderson either comes back to BCH as himself or he re-rolls Anon and comes back to BCH.
Well, how do we verify that, though? There's no verification, but...
If he's Anon, I guess we can't, but we could maybe suss it out.
Okay.
But he's been posting lately, so I 10% chance Gavin comes back. I would love that.
That's a good... That is definitely a good one.
Yeah, if you're watching, come back.
love to have you, mate. Okay, message to the community. Ryan, you're first up. What does the BCH community need to hear?
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of steal this a little from Fiendish from the last Bliss. We're talking about Bliss today, but if you're watching, if you're active, if you like or love BCH, just ask yourself for this next year. I'm gonna ask myself the same question. What is that more percentage you can do for BCH this year? It makes such a profound impact. A little bit from all of us. Asking any one person to carry the weight for what we're trying to do is heavy. So the more people carrying that weight is critical. So like if you tweet consistently good things about BCH, create a TikTok, create an Instagram feed, create a YouTube feed, put out more of that information that you're sharing in one space, in one other space. And if one other person can do that in several other places, we can get out the message more. It goes a long way. One thing I also, I know a lot of people, and I've caught this in the past year, and I really felt it from my own perspective. Watching people like Roger get arrested and some other people get arrested, Telegram owner, is maybe I've had different people stop me in the past at different conferences and thank me for the efforts I put in and just by being public about it. And I never thought twice about it. I was like, I'm an American. I'm speaking about freedom. These are cool things. And I didn't realize that the risk involved with that. So shout out to people that do it. And for the first time, I felt a little, for lack of a better term, scared myself. But I definitely think the political winds turning this year has alleviated a lot for me personally. And I would say if you want to get in and share more, and you can be anonymous. I get why there's so many anonymous people in crypto now. Before I was I didn't realize how, I don't know. I started, for the first time in my life, I started to think about, wow, this is a targeted thing, and it makes sense that it is. But I feel like the winds have turned, and if everyone could do 1% more, it's going to be a lot harder to throw us all in jail.
Absolutely. Kallisti.
My message to the community is stay positive, keep grinding it out. We're doing a really good job. So keep staying on that path. Let's stay focused. Let's be kind to people. Let's try to be enticing. Let's try to be the coolest party in town. Let's not try to push people away. I think those are all really important things. Also want to give a couple of shout outs to some people in the community. It's been a really great year. Shout out to Emergent Reasons and the General Protocols team. You guys have been absolutely killing it. Shout out to Dagger and Halver and the Riften Labs team. You guys have also been killing it. Shout out to Cheap Lightning for doing a lot of janitor work for the community in terms of keeping our chats clean, getting rid of bots, getting rid of bad actors. You have been killing it. Go fund him if it hasn't been funded yet. Shout out to Jeremy for running an awesome podcast. Shout out to Fiendish for all of his community efforts as well, running the spaces, etc. Shout out to Matthew Gukins for all of the cash tokens work. Jason Dresner, you're one of my #1 superheroes, have been from the beginning. Callan for all of the infrastructure work that he's been doing. I think those are the main people that I really wanted to just highlight because all of those people in particular have just been doing so much awesome work for the BCH community, and it definitely is appreciated and absolutely needed. So thank you so much, guys. And then finally, as usual, shout outs to my mom. I love you. Shout outs to my girlfriend. I love you. Thank you for being so supportive in my life and for helping to make my dreams a reality.
Amazing. Jet.
Message?
Yeah. Give us a message.
I got some shout outs, but I don't know if I have a message.
Well, we're gonna have shout outs at the end, but look, here's a theme. I'll give you a prompt, ChatGPT prompt for you. we've had a couple of listeners write into the show and say, Jeremy, what are you doing with guests? Like, fuck the guests. Like, the best episodes is just when it's you and Jet gets to talk a bit more. So the people want more of you. What's your message to the community, to those frustrated listeners who only get a few non-guest episodes?
I do appreciate it, but that's insane to me. I feel like an idiot a lot of the time when I'm on here, and this is part of the reason why I don't like doing these predictions. And I think the older I get, the more antisocial I am too. So like, maybe I'll start a blog or something, but I don't know if I don't want to be a guest on podcasts. I think the episodes that we do are like my limit. So I appreciate you. Stick around, but don't push your buttons.
Yeah, don't push your luck. Don't push your luck with that. All right, my message to the community. Bruno in the chat says price predictions should go on BCH Guru. They should, but I don't know whether they let us do one that's actually that long. Maybe we can jump on afterwards though and look in a couple of those with some stats to back it up. I just had a look. I've ranked up to number 2. I'm 6 out of 7. Abla for life has still got me, so I'm going to need to make some new predictions. Maybe I can start with that. I also want to mention, I realized Caesar Talks Crypto, when he was on the show, he said $1,700 if I remember right. So his price prediction, I said we'd check in on that. So he didn't do super well there either, but he's welcome to message me with his fresh 2025 predictions. Maybe we'll have him back on the show for some more chart analysis. I did actually enjoy that. That was one of the most popular user episodes as well. People love that. Okay, my message to the community is just try and stay positive a bit more. I think like we're already doing a good job of that, but in terms of memes, and I'm also part of this myself, I've been creating a lot that are pointing out how BTC is stuck or making fun of somebody, trying to mock them and get them to reevaluate their perspective, break through their cognitive dissonance, a lot of that kind of stuff. This year, I think we can do better about making memes that are like, have you tried BCH Bull, or or when the USD is a lot faster and it's MUSD or something like that, things that are proactively promoting BCH, because we can move past just Bitcoin was hijacked, BCH is the solution. That's in the Overton window now. So now we have an opportunity to say, look at all these cool things that are happening in BCH, and you're not going to have to deal with people, what's BCH and why can't I just use BCH? All that's done now. So try and make some more positive memes. And I also wrote a Twitter post to that effect, which is that we're at a point where things are going well for us and the BTC guys are paying attention. So the eyes are on to us. All we need to do is just put up results. We don't need to go out and say, hey guys, look at this, look at that. Have you considered this? Have you considered that XMR isn't really going to scale, or it doesn't have DeFi, or whatever? It doesn't really matter. Like, people are paying attention. Now it's about what we put out and whether that is convincing enough that they want to jump on board. So I think that should be our focus more over the next year. All right. Final 2 little announcements is like we do on the show every year. Jet, maybe if you can just grab up that song as well. We have the BCH Christmas song. I forgot to mention it to you. John Moriarty. Bring your BCH home. Put your coins in self-custody. This is your yearly, not your keys, not your coins, reminder for anybody who has not taken the time to properly set up their cold storage. Back up your keys, withdraw onto your Selene wallet, use that instead of whatever other centralized, custodian you have. So if you have a chance, well, not if you have a chance, make yourself a chance while you have some time over the holidays and you're kind of knocking about at home, to bring your BCH home for the holidays as well too. And finally, also a big happy birthday to Jessica Giffin, whose birthday it is, and yet apparently doesn't know that Ryan is in here recording a podcast with the lads instead of looking after her for her birthday. So, Ryan, I don't know if you have a message in that regard.
Yeah. Happy birthday, babe. Jeremy hit me up with this date. And I know coordinating different people is difficult and times and all that. So I always try to be, I requested like 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time start. I was like, I can get away with that. And like, we'll start our day after that. But he's like, Jet and Kallisti are going to kill you if you do that. So could you make another time work? And I was like, you know what, just tell me the time that's good for them. I'll set up her day beautifully. So this morning we opened Christmas presents with my children. And now she's at the barn riding her horse, which she loves to do. So I'm going to go in the office for a little bit. And then I have a nice steak dinner planned for her at a nice restaurant down here on Palm Beach Island. So she'll be just fine. She'll be back at Bliss. She'll be back at Bliss this year. If you'd like to meet her, she's the non-fungible Jessica NFT right here. So yeah, shout out to Jessica. It's a winter solstice today too. Shortest day of the year, longest night. So we look forward to longer sunny days in weather and in crypto ahead of us.
Amazing. Love it. Happy birthday, Jessica. Okay, our FundMe contributors, like I said, it's not completely funded yet, but it was almost all the way there, but we already had some good contributions. Majamalo Marcelo, Founding Father, Molecular, The Show We Love, Milton Friedman, and at Cash Stamps, Keep Calm, and Bitcoin Cash. You can also get on this slide if you donate at least half a BCH. And with the way FundMe works, actually, is you can go over the cap. With Flipstarter, you got to the cap and then that was it paid out. But with FundMe, you can even go over. So if anybody wants to donate, they still can. And then I'll, cash it out once we're over that limit. But
Kallisti, when are we getting the wallet connect to FundMe.cash?
After cash tokens.
Okay.
So, all right. So spoiler alert, we're going to ask for funding again in 2025, probably in like the first quarter. It would be really, really cool if we had Wallet Connect before we do that so that we can use the FundMe platform instead of Flipstarter. If we don't have that, it's probably just going to be a web wallet Flipstarter like it was last year. But that's a goal that is on the radar for sure. So we'll see if we can actually make that a thing.
Sorry, I thought this was a good time to ask.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Well, wait till the funding's coming up and then pester him again. Say, well, I'll fund you if the number one priority is my favorite thing,
money talks. So, I mean, if you want to bribe me for features, I accept money.
Makes sense.
Okay, our supporter appreciation. Thank you to all our donators. Thank you to our patrons, Ricky and HP. And thank you to our sponsors, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. The start guide, FAQs, and links are at bitcoincashpodcast.com. If you're new, listen to episode 85. And if you've been loving this year, I do recommend people to go back and listen to episode 102, last year's Christmas episode. That was a banger. When I listened to it, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe this was only 1 year ago, given how different everything is now. But as a bit of a time capsule, it's amazing. And download Selene at selene.cash. Final shout outs. We already had a little bit of mention of that, but this is last shout outs, last call. Ryan, shout outs, and where can people find more of you?
I got to give it to really Jeremy and Jet today. And also, Kallisti, always good to see you, my man. Excited to see you back at Bliss this year. But what you guys do, I mean, it's 4 years. Like, a lot of these efforts, come and go. There's a lot to be said about longevity. You have to be, and a good saying I've heard, to have longevity, you have to be good. So let's say you have a career in professional sports, like you had to have been good, or you had to, 4 years. So, for me, and it's probably, is it 5 years now, almost, the show will be?
It'll be starting the 5th year, in January next year,
and it's a huge, what you're doing, everyone here, to create a nice cornerstone for the community with the podcast, with the tools of Selene, with the conference of Bliss, seeing where we were on the first episode. This was a new thing, probably a couple hundred subscribers back then. Probably no Celine, no Bliss. I mean, we've come a long way. And like I said, we talked about our estimations. People tend to overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in a decade. So hanging in there and keep on plowing away is a huge shout out to you guys. Thank you for having me back on for my 4th episode. Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Kallisti.
Yeah, always a pleasure to see you as well, Ryan. And thank you to you and to Jeremy for organizing such an awesome conference. And shout outs to Jonathan Silverblood as well, organizing the Bliss conference. Definitely hope to see you guys again this year. Yeah, I mean, really, I think my final shout out is just to the community as a whole. Really, everybody has just been doing a great job of everyone's doing their part. We're staying positive, we're staying optimistic, we're not so bearish anymore, we're not so fearful anymore. We can really stand on our own feet. And when I think about the people that I like interacting with most in the world, most of them are BCHers at this point. When I think about my friends and family in real life, they still don't necessarily understand like what I do or why I do it. But the BCH community is right there, fully aligned. We're just driving forward, and what we're doing just makes sense. This is very seriously like my life work. And if it wasn't for the support of the rest of the community, I wouldn't be able to do something that I so passionately care about, that I think has humanity changing properties. I just really couldn't be happier doing what I'm doing. I've known for my entire life that I would be doing something in technology, because I started using computers when I was like 2-3 years old, started coding when I was like 10, right? So I always knew it would be something like this, but I never knew it would be something to this scale or to this level of implication on what it can do for humanity and civilization. So thank you to everybody who believes in us, who believes in BCH, and who believes in a better world. I think there is nothing more important in the world than what we're doing.
Jet.
Pretty quick, my shout out is to OpReturn and Josh ZQuest for finally getting BCHD back, baby. If you didn't know, we're back. Go download it, give it a shot. They've also been Josh has been working on Meep and getting that upgraded. So and getting explore.cash up. Wait, hold on. Was that the right URL? One of his other explore.cash to support cash tokens, and it's nice to see. I thought honestly like a year ago I was gonna fizzle out, that'd be the end of it, but we're back. So yeah, shout out to you guys.
And for me, it's just a Merry Christmas to all the listeners and everybody that follows the show on social media, that writes in with any comments, that came to say hi to me at Bliss. Any of you out there, and all of you really, because that's the thing. It's not a show without listeners. Otherwise, it's just like personal therapy or something. So it's great to have you all along for the ride, and I was very pleased to see that the price was $100 and something 2 years ago, $200 and something, $400 and something today when we did the Christmas episode. So I do feel like people that are listening to the show, making some dollar cost average and stuff, we're not putting you in financial ruin either, which is nice to see. Not that price is the most important thing, but I would hate to be dedicating all this time to just wrecking people's lives, So it's good to see that things are moving in the right direction.
You want to go to BSV.
And definitely come to Bliss. Everybody watch out for the Velma ticket sale. Starts on the 15th of January 2025, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. And obviously my predictions rely on it, so please come through for me and show up. You'll have an amazing time. Literally everybody that has been there has said it's fantastic, so it's going to be bigger and better this year than ever.
And any Americans watching, this is a great opportunity to get to Europe. It's incredible. I extend my stay there, the vacation, and also the food is like, you live there, Jeremy, the food in America is very different. It's everything that RFK is talking about now is true. I learned that from my experience there. You can eat and don't drink too much, but you can drink and live like a king and not feel like crap like we do in America. So come out and enjoy some amazing food as well with crypto.
Absolutely. Supremium Plier says, the final question, what's a safe app to purchase BCH on? Well, I mean, the best way to do it is to get it peer-to-peer. So if you have a friend in the community or you're messaging people, start with a small amount and maybe swap with them. But if you want to buy some BCH, I don't know, I would recommend Kraken or Coinbase. Obviously, your privacy is not going to be super well respected in that regard, but that's probably the best generic recommendation I can give you. But the number one way to get it is to earn it. So ask your boss, ask your job, or look for a job in the BCH ecosystem and say, pay me in BCH. And then when they say, what's that? Then you say, okay, time to educate you. And you learn how to onboard them. You also upskill yourself. So that's something to try out in 2025. Bruno says the Paytaka P2P exchange. There you go. That's your answer. Paytaka, download the Paytaka wallet, go on their P2P exchange, and make a deal there with Bruno. I'm sure he's hoping to get his own orders filled. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Also, you can fulfill Amazon orders on BitGree. Jeez, the chat is so good now that we've got a bunch of listeners that just come in with the answers to any question. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back in 2025. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And thank you for being part of another year on the mission to global reserve currency. All right. Thank you very much. Until next time.
Appreciate it.
Tomorrow all the bags were gone. Visa drained my pay. I thank BCH for breaking through to show a better way. I send my funds across the globe to anyone in need. It's fast, it's fair, it's always there. A tool for every creed. And I'm proud to use BCH today, where freedom lights the way. That's secure and built to last, the strongest every day. From the cities to the farmlands, to the mountains capped with snow. Bitcoin Cash connects the world and helps our future grow. Whoa. No single force can hold it back. It's built to stand the